We're talking to Blake Alexander, fresh off a huge win this past weekend at the NHRA National event in Brainerd, Minnesota. We're also going to check in with Bruno Massel Jr., who took home the win in Comp Eliminator. Great to have these guys on the show. We got a ton of stuff to cover, some news from the NHRA. Got a big event coming up for the PDRA, their first appearance at Bristol Dragway. It's going to be a barn burner. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. Got a hell of a show for you guys today. In just a little bit, we're going to be a little touch and go with our boy Blake Alexander. His wife's actually perhaps has already had a baby today. I believe their second child. I think they went into the hospital about 5 o'clock this morning. So hopefully we're all in recovery and everything's going well. But we're going to hear from Blake Alexander. His wife gave him the green light to go ahead. It's because of you. It's because of all of y'all. He's got the green light to join us and talk a little bit of drag racing on the day his child is brought into this world. Pretty awesome situation. And what a weekend for Blake. Like a young man who was on the cover of Drag Illustrated not too terribly long ago, on the cover of our Drag Illustrated annual 30 Under 30 issue. We unveiled it at PRI. I remember he flew in. The cover was killer for that episode or that issue. We had Blake was in a business suit with his fire suit as well, like kind of unzipped with a business suit under it. It was killer, really iconic cover. But anyways, excited to hear from Blake and really just happy for that team. An incredible performance this weekend. Damn near qualified number one, ran really well, won the race. Just an incredible effort from that group. So congrats to Jim Head and the whole crew there. I'm excited to hear what Blake has to say about it. But I also will be joined in a little bit after the hour, I believe, right around 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. We're going to hear from Bruno Massel Jr. You know him, you love him, you've seen him all over the internet, all over television, and of course in the winner's circle at drag races more often than not. Got the job done in Comp Eliminator. Always great to check in with our Comp Eliminator community, so excited to talk to him. But first, of course, I gotta check in with the gang. What's going on, boys? I see JT in the green room with sunglasses on.
What's up, man?
Yo.
What's up, gang?
Did you have
bringing the Les Buck back? You know,
Les Buck.
The
Les Buck.
I
like
got my rings. Yeah. Well, we couldn't find you, dude. So I thought I was gonna have to fill in for you.
Yeah.
I was getting all excited. Actually,
we had comments in here saying, "Hey, drag JT out of the bar. Let's get the show going." But
wasn't even me this time.
Yeah, it was.
Man, I was in the midst of I'll tell you what I'm working on. You want to know? Let's just chat. You guys want to do a little chat, a little behind the scenes stuff? You want to know?
Sure.
I thought I'd get a little more like enthusiasm.
I don't know.
Yeah, man.
It makes me nervous. Okay. I don't know what this is about to be.
Oh,
so.
No, I was well, you know what? And I think this is something that I hope it catches on is that for the last couple of years, we've been really trying to measure and examine the impact that events like the World Series of Pro Mod have on the performance racing industry as a whole, but also like the region, the regional market. So working with some outside sources and some agencies, and we've basically cooked up an economic impact report, and we have extrapolated that out over the course of what will be 3 races this season. Of course, the Drag Illustrated Winter Series, as we announced a few weeks ago, featuring the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, the U.S. Street Nationals, and of course, the World Series of Pro Mod. Those 3 events, guys, will take place inside of a 90-day window. I know I got to be careful when I tell you guys that because you'll probably like quit and leave and leave the JT would flee the country. But you really can't. You've got to sit down and do that math. And if you're going to get a local community to kind of get excited about what you're doing, a shortcut to success in that regard is to tell them how much money you're bringing to town and how much movement you're generating in the local economy. And it's really insane to look at some of these numbers and realize just how truly significant so much of it is. I mean, by our estimation, the Drag Illustrated Winter Series will have nearly a $30 million impact on the Bradenton area economy. I mean, that's hotels, rental cars, food, nightlife, entertainment.
That's all just JT.
I was going to say,
that last part, alone, the food, nightlife, entertainment, that's JT.
And poke bowls at Geckos or whatever. My God,
he's a stimulus package. He's a walking stimulus package.
I mean, I think we book, I think it's over the course of across 600-ish roughly hotel rooms, we'll have sold 3,200 room nights for hotels in the area. I mean, several $1 million in revenue generated on the back of these events. And I think things like this really make a difference. So I've been in communication with like the Florida Gulf Coast Sports Administration or Sports Council, reached out to the governor, not the governor. I did reach out to Governor DeSantis of Florida, but I don't know how far that will go. But I did also reach out to Mayor Gene Brown from Bradenton because I think it's important to get involved locally. I mean, if we look at our ticket sales, and we're like numbers guys. I mean, it's no different than a drag racer looking at a time slip, right? You're figuring out all the splits. You're looking for any opportunity for improvement. And when we look at our numbers, especially as it pertains to ticket sales, a lot of our ticket sales, nearly 50%, come from that greater Bradenton, Sarasota, Tampa area. So it's like, of course, we're thrilled that we have people travel as many as 5,000 miles to be a part of the World Series of Pro Mod. I mean, it's something that I definitely don't take lightly, but I know that the roadmap for the future really has a lot to do with that local economy and that local community. How can we grow these events locally so that they matter more on a regional, national, international level? So anyway,
get them involved, and we talked about with El Bandito and Ryan, doing what Chamber of Commerce, letting them come out and take hits in those Mustangs. And
man, I mean, it's like just about getting people excited. Yeah, I mean, it really is. And so our model, or at least our approach to this, has been to reach out and try to build inroads with the local community because again, I think it's important once you get that local buy-in and people start scheduling dates on their calendars and getting excited about things and having friends come to town so they can all go together. I mean, we have race teams that are building shops, buying houses, renting extended stays at Airbnbs. Like this event series, the Drag Illustrated Winter Series, it's going to have a significant impact on Bradenton, Florida, along the Florida Gulf Coast. And I'm proud of that. I think it's something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about it publicly because it's a great way to get people excited. I mean, if you tell people, hey, we're going to book up 600 hotel rooms, it's hard not to get excited about that because they immediately go, okay, 600 rooms, a couple of people in each one. How many days are they going to be here? How many nights are they going to eat at my restaurant? How many nights are they going to drink at my bar? Those things matter. So anyways, and I actually, why I was a little late to the green room today is I was in the midst of working on a similar study that outlines kind of how our event impacts the industry, the performance racing industry. I think I felt kind of inspired by that report that PRI put out earlier in the year that was just chock full of high, bright spots for drag racing. Like across pretty much every measured segment, drag racing was moving the needle. It was leading the charge for motorsports, for racing in general. And so I thought, you know what? We should probably start to consider just how much impact our race teams have on the racing industry. And I mean, some quick math will tell you it's about $100 million. I mean, when you consider 65 Pro Mod chassis, 65 engine spares, drivetrains, converters, transmissions, stators, third members. When you start to talk about all those things, when you start to talk about trucks and trailers, of which are roughly $500,000, probably a low estimate on those, 65 of those on the property, that's $50 million worth of trucks and trailers. And you start to look at this event in these three events and go, hey man, this is moving the needle in our community. This is lining pockets, not in a bad way. Yeah. That's a good thing.
I told you when we were talking about this yesterday, someone that always had success with that was Steve Earwood here in North Carolina in Rockingham Dragway. And he was involved in all the Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, would have those people out there, stayed in contact with the local government. I think at one point they were even going to try to put some kind of restriction on the length or, add restrictions to towing race rigs. Yeah. And he like almost single-handedly, I think, got that shut down. And it's important to really, build that support with your local community. We have like the North Carolina Motorsports Association is another thing that he was involved in or chair of, the North Carolina Drag Racing Hall of Fame. So, as far as our role as promoters or track owners or whatever, it goes much further into that local community than just, kind of focusing on your racers or even your fans that attend. I think we tend to put those blinders on to just what's happening in racing. But if you look at it a little broader for the local economy, that's again, how we get this thing on more of a mainstream stage. We're always talking about how do we get non-automotive sponsors? How do we get this thing on TV or local media to pick it up? And that's the way.
And I think, honestly, just talking about these things, right? I mean, a lot of it is the information. It's not hard to put together. Matter of fact, there are agencies, companies out there that will do it for you. It's not necessarily an inexpensive endeavor, but this isn't rocket science. I mean, you start doing some rough numbers. I mean, you look at, you consider the fact that one of our pro mod teams at the Drag Illustrated Winter Series typically goes through 4 or 5 sets of tires a year. Let's say 5. If they run a full NHRA season, something like that, do some testing, want to have tires going into the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. I mean, you're talking, I think my number was $2.6 million in wheels and tires for our 65 pro mod teams at the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. I mean, things like that, they need to be talked about, because one of the issues and one of the things that I think needs to happen over time, because this conversation can go a multitude of ways, but we really need to see the industry embrace these events and recognize how big of a driver they are for business and invest in them. Because, there are promoters that are making tons of money and being very successful. And I think that's fantastic, but we are going to need further support from the companies, manufacturers, men and women who earn their living on the backs of these race teams. And it's something that I see as a little bit of a problem, because we talk about it right here on this show. We've mentioned it several times. Support the companies that support the tracks, support the companies that support the events, like support the companies that support their racers. I mean, these are very important things. I mean, I will tell you right now that on the heels of this kind of new world we live in, full of mergers and acquisitions and all, publicly traded companies, private equity, et cetera. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, right, guys? I mean, how many times have we seen our good old buddy from XYZ company that we used to see at every event? We don't see him anymore at all. And the next thing we know, he's been laid off or he's been let go, because they are struggling to quantify what they're really contributing to the bottom line. But they quickly realize upon that person's exit, when they see sales go down and they see their market share start to fall, the customer racers are going to support their fellow racer. They're going to support their brother and sister in arms, brothers and sisters in arms. And it kind of continues from beyond that, like a mindset shift that needs to change, because it's something of a lost art right now. I mean, I think back to some of the people that I met and became close friends with. I mean, that I met through their relationship with a company, and they were going to every race. So we would cross paths constantly. And I recognized then and still now how important that was for people. Race teams want to see the people they're doing business with at the racetrack. They want to feel supported. They want a shoulder to cry on. They want someone to complain to. I mean, and you've got to be willing to do that. I saw my dear friends, I think of Roger Conley from Race Pack. I mean, Roger, hell, his name in my phone was Race Pack Roger. I mean, it was like Tommy Kundrick from Mickey Thompson Tires. I mean, I think about the status that Mark Beatty has achieved with Redline Oil. They are synonymous. And that is important. It is important to see the people you're buying product from or receiving product from at the events, showing they care, sweating their ass off right alongside you. And the next layer of that is we need all these companies that are building race cars, building transmissions, selling wheels and tires, selling electronics, selling trucks and trailers. They've got to support these events. And I don't see as much of it as I think I should. Right? I mean, and that has to change. I mean, I encourage people to support the brands that support our sport and be vocal about it. I mean, I think back, over the course of the last several years, I think we've had one chassis shop, just Rick Jones Race Cars, little Ricky Jones and his father, Rick Sr. At Quartermax and RJ Race Cars. They have supported us endlessly. But I look around and like all these chassis builders building cars, but they're not involved with any of these events. They're not involved with many of these things. And I understand that there are people that believe they don't have to advertise and they've reached a certain level, so they don't got to do it. And I understand.
I mean, it's so short-sighted.
Well, exactly. It's extremely short-sighted. And I'm not saying buy ads in the magazine. I don't care. Like, that's fine. I'm saying, well, yeah, you probably are, you and Brett. But my point is just that it takes all of us, and we've got to get, you get what you give, right? And I think that there's a lot of companies in this space that have pulled way back on their event sponsorships, pulled way back on their midway displays. I mean, look at the NHRA midway at this point in time. Now, granted, that's another story, and we could probably spend the next 4 hours kind of debating and discussing all the ins and outs of that situation. But still, we've got to, I mean, and I guess that leads me to this. There's a responsibility on us too, right? I mean, we have to make it a meaningful relationship. We have to provide a pathway to victory. I think that's kind of what happened with a lot of these midways. The price to compete, or the price to participate got so high that the juice really wasn't worth the squeeze, especially in this day and age, with gas prices the way they are and travel costs the way they are across the board, food, lodging, etc. So I do find it interesting, but it's something that we need to talk about. It needs to be discussed. And, we're here to help. I mean, if there's anybody out there that's looking for help or looking for guidance or wants to be more involved with things, I mean, I don't care if I think about all these small events and all these, how much drag racing is going on at any given time. And those racers, they're spending money, right? I mean, they're 1000% spending money. Matter of fact, I got a couple of funny stories for you guys about spending money as a racer. It's, but we'll get to that in a minute. But it's, I mean, do you smell what I'm?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about it on here before. Even big events where there isn't very many places to eat that are close. We've talked about it where we've went to eat at these places and nobody knows that there's a drag race. And then they see everybody piling in at 10, 11. They're like, maybe it's the only place open that's open late and serves late. And everybody's rolling in with rubber all over their face, just been through it, been out in the sun all day. And they're like, what the hell's going on? Where are all these people coming from? The big ass drag race is happening, 3 miles down the road here.
That's harder to do.
No one locally knows about it.
Yeah, right. That's harder to do in one of those big cities. But like, I think of Brainerd this past weekend. And I've never been to Brainerd. I don't know, JT, you haven't. Wes, I know you've been. It's kind of there in your local area in the upper Midwest, but it's like a resort town, right? And everybody, it struggles to get rooms there and struggles to get, all the accommodations you need when it rolls in, because it's already booked out, because this is prime time.
Because of its local. Yeah. I mean, because of the local buy-in. I mean, if you go up, I've been to Brainerd.
But I'm just saying, I'm just wondering what NHRA's impact when they roll in there. I feel like that's a perfect market where everyone knows an NHRA race is coming into town. It's almost like a tradition. It overwhelms the area, I guess you could say, in a good way. Epping is another one that I think probably does that same thing. But then when you roll into, any of these other bigger markets, Norwalk is another one. Those type of venues tend to do better in that regard. But these big cities, we've done that so many times where they have no clue that a race is even going on in town. So it's harder. It's harder to me. The bigger the market, it goes without saying.
This guy
harder
gets
to make
it,
that
right?
impact.
He's not spending thousands anymore. He's using credit cards now.
That's right. That's
he's all in for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, at least a couple of years, man. It's funny, but I mean, racers, and I think all I'm saying is that, like, there's all this movement towards the bigger purses, and I mean, that's what we want. We want racers competing for more money. We want racers competing on great, safe tracks that are well lit and well equipped and well staffed and all these things. And it takes money to achieve that. Right. And I know the racers are spending millions of dollars, like just using the Drag Illustrated Winter Series projected economic impact. I mean, I'm here to tell you that it's $110 million that these racers are injecting into the racing economy. And I promise you that amount of money is not being returned or even remotely close, to promoters, track, sanctioned series, et cetera. And I think that one of the things that's kind of holding our community back is, we've got to see some of these major stakeholders, these companies that have built a brand on the back of drag racers, these men and women that are literally burning the candle at both ends to buy the next Go Fast goodie. We need those people to have the opportunity to be supported and feel supported and to continue to race at great facilities and to race for real meaningful money. But it's very difficult to do that. I mean, we've kind of arrived at a time in our sport where the best the best paying races. I mean, if you look at the World Series of Pro Mod, you look at, you know, the forthcoming SmackDown in at Flying H in Kansas City, you look at the Great American Million, you look at the Spring Fling races, those are all high entry fee races because the events are reliant on that racer gate to achieve those purses. But I'm telling you that equation can change if the investment from brands, manufacturers is as significant as it should be. So anyways, it's an interesting conversation, man. But I do think I apologize for being late because I was wrapped up. I'm doing math. I mean, my notes, you guys, Mike loves my note taking.
I don't think you're fired up enough, man. I can't tell you. You need to up the energy on this deal a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm taking notes, you know, just man, I just, like I said,
you need to get your old Texas Instrument. You know?
Oh man, look at that bad. Is that an 83 plus?
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
I got a Casio MS80B. Yeah. This is my go-to calculator.
Oh no, you got to up your game. You can play games on this, you know.
Dude, this is solar powered. My dad told me, I remember whenever I got my first computer.
You know, they make these things too that
oh yeah, I don't like using I do if I have to. If I'm flying or something, but if I'm at my desk.
Built in now.
Yeah. But my dad would tell you the same thing he told me, Mike, and your father, knowing Charles the way I do, he may have said this to you. I remember being so excited, pushing that power button on the massive tower. It was like 3.5 foot tall. It was the size of like a small passenger vehicle, massive monitor. It was like a 15-inch monitor, which was balling at the time, but it was like about 20 inches deep.
Yeah.
Anyways, I remember firing that thing up for the first time, so excited to have this computer. And my dad looks at me and he says, Wes, those computers, internet, all that shit, it's a fad. All you need in life is a number 2 pencil and a solar powered calculator.
There you go.
And it's like, wow, here we are 25 years later.
Yeah, just different ways.
It's good to have a pen and paper. I
always remember, going back to the TI-83, our teacher said, hey, don't get too reliant on the calculators. You're not going to have that in your pocket the rest of your life. You're not going to walk around with a TI-83 in your pocket. So you need to know how to do the work, show your work, which I was always terrible.
Dude, I've got a legal aid in my phone. I've got an accountant aid in my phone. Artificial intelligence, bro. Like, there's not a whole lot of questions you can't ask one of these things at this point in time and get a fairly coherent answer. Now, granted, you can get way off in left field with some of this stuff, but I'm a big believer in AI. I think it's here to stay, man. I made all you guys start using it. It's important. Well, hey guys,
I'm worried about Wes. He says that sometimes he just talks to it just to have a conversation. So
I do talk to it. I named it.
When we're worn out, he turns to AI for his conversation.
When you guys are tired of hearing from me, I start talking to ChatGPT. But I also use Claude.ai. I experiment with a lot of different AI platforms.
We lost
ChatGPT kind of my
go-to. He's gone. He's gone.
No, dude. If you're not using, let me just say this real quick. If you're not learning how to use artificial intelligence, you should be. It is not going away. I do not think it's going to revolutionize the world overnight. I think this is something that could take 10 or 20 years.
No, the people that got him use it though might though, right?
Yeah, so we got him on another tangent.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say, if you're not getting familiar, I told this to my children. It's like, this stuff's not going to go away. I mean, it'd be like being a farmer
not gonna pull the Eddie
and
Buck?
Being afraid to use a tractor.
You're not going to say
I've never used a tractor before. What?
You're not going to pull the Eddie Buck and say it's a fad?
Oh,
that AI, that's a fad. No, it's real scary. I actually don't like to talk about it at all because it's terrifying.
Oh yeah, man. Here before long, I'll be able to type into old ChatGPT and to say design drag illustrated issue 190.
They're going to look back and go, I never thought that Terminator was going to be a documentary.
I told Kayla earlier that my ChatGPT bot or whatever is starting to pick up on how I say things, and because I'll put back.
You got to train it.
Yeah.
I trained mine. I spent like countless hours training mine to be able to create content the way that I would. Or
let's bring in our.
Oh, hey, real quick. I've got to do this real quick before we bring on our first guest of the day. Excited to have this guy. I don't know that we've ever had him on he's been on the cover of the magazine, but I'm not sure that we've ever had him on the Wes Buck Show. So this is very exciting. But I want to
that I ever designed for.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. I want to talk a lot. We're gonna go nostalgia here. We're gonna talk about old times. But anyways, I want to take a second, guys, and remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that protect and perform better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. All All right, JT, the man of the hour. I'm ready to see him. I kind of hope he's shirtless. I kind of hope he's shirtless.
Super weird, dude.
Oh man,
No, he's jacked.
No, I
mean,
know, but God dang,
I can't wait.
man.
I can't wait till that gets clipped out into a reel with no context. Man, that's gonna be.
I'm cool with it, man. I'm
viral.
pretty comfortable with my sexuality, and I'm a big Bruno Massel fan. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, fresh off an incredible performance at the NHRA Lucas Oil Nationals in Brainerd, Minnesota, the one, the only Bruno Massel Jr. What's up, Bruno?
He's got his
shirt on. He's
repping.
repping.
Got Wes all sweating over there.
Yeah, he's branded.
He's branded now, man.
I
I guess
tattooed across my chest, but I thought it'd be a little much for the first time. Maybe the next time you bring me back sometime, I'll have it on my chest.
Let's do that.
Outlaw beer tattoo. I love it.
I tell you what, they've got a logo that is tattoo worthy. I think they've done a great job with their branding. Like I actually said that to Mark Stoxis. For those that don't know, Mark Stoxis, deeply involved with the Outlaw Beer brand. He's a guy who has supported our sport at an incredible level for years and years and years, largely under his own name, just under the brand umbrella of Mark Stoxis Racing. I'm sure many of you have seen that logo on various pro stock cars, pro stock motorcycles throughout the years, but the kind of evolution of his involvement in drag racing is now with Outlaw Beer, which made their debut on the side of Jerry Don Tucker's NHRA pro stock car, which in that program now includes Bruno Massel Jr. I mean, hey, congrats, man.
Yeah.
Let's send some invoices, baby. We're
all
like
for
sending
beer
invoices.
sponsors, man. We need beer sponsors back in the game.
Right?
I know.
I need a beer when you had the beer wars, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Back with Bernstein and Dixon and all that stuff. Let's bring that kind of stuff back, that nostalgia, man. It's cool to not only be a part of something that's growing like Outlaw Beer, but man, being the Mark Stockstick family, dude. It's an elite group he's got with Jed Coughlin Jr. as well as Madsen and Angie Smith. I mean, he keeps a tight knit group, and I've somehow kind of snuck my way into that, and he allowed me to race pro stock for a few years with Elite, and now they're back in my comp car for Indy here coming up as well. So it's a good place to be, man, for sure.
It's awesome, man, because actually the way we started the show, and this may be something that we could talk to you about and maybe learn a little something, just talking about how important it is to see our racers supported. I was referencing the economic impact that our fans have on, areas like Bradenton, Florida, where we host our events typically. But I was kind of carrying that on into the impact that these racers have on the performance aftermarket. I mean, by our calculations, Pro Mod racers that are involved with the World Series of Pro Mod and the forthcoming Drag Illustrated Winter Series generate about $110 million worth of revenue for the industry. And it's like, these are big numbers, and we need to see these racers supported. I know you've had multiple relationships throughout the years, and you've had a lot of big brands on the side of your car, but can you kind of explain to us and maybe express to the masses or those that maybe are fighting a similar fight just how great of a challenge that is in 2024? Like, I don't want anybody to think that this is a doom and gloom conversation, because it is not. I mean, there is absolutely opportunity out there, but it is kind of an interesting world. It's different than it used to be.
It really is, and I think right now, and not to get political, but the election is affecting in huge ways. I've seen it. The first words I had from a bunch of people this year when we're starting out the season, people have been with me for a while, is right now I've got to be cash heavy. I'm nervous the way this election is going to go, one way or the other, whatever it's going to be. And I think the whole deal we had with COVID scared people, man. People want to be cash heavy in case, the world falls apart. I mean, I think a lot of it is that whole sky is falling mentality, which is maybe a little over the top, but I understand people's concerns. So I'm just hoping we can get past this, get past November, get people back to, going out and doing what you've got to do, because at the end of the day, let's face it, you still have to advertise your company. You still have to promote it, right? And I think especially in the NHRA and in drag racing, it's such a good value compared to some other places out there. But the landscape has definitely changed, Wes. You're right. And back in the day, it was people just wanted a name on the side of a race car. And today it is everything but that. That's just kind of like the little added bonus on the backside. Social media has changed the landscape tremendously. The watering down with television itself, cable channels and stuff for the programming I do. A lot of it's changed because you've got YouTube and you've got everything is so niche. Everybody's got a niche, so the numbers go down, so it brings down the advertising numbers. So it's just a different world, and you've got to kind of adjust on the fly. And maybe being the golden age that I hit this year. I turned the big 5-0. I'm a little behind the times. I'm not on ChatGPT yet or any of that stuff yet, but I think I need to catch up with it. That's for sure.
Well, they are helpful tools. I'll tell you, especially from like a sharing information perspective. Like if you're trying to crank out copy or crank out, really complicated things, it can really, really, really speed the process up. But I think it's interesting because you hit something there that I think is worth noting, that you're right. I mean, typically, election years, anytime there's, kind of scary movement in the economy, most of the time, the first thing companies pull back on is marketing and advertising, right? I mean, they got to keep the lights on. They want to keep their people employed. They've got to do X, Y, Z things. But one of the optional endeavors is their advertising promotional effort. But I think it also presents a real opportunity for the companies that are looking to gain market share or drive sales or, grow their business. When everybody else is starting to tuck tail and run or to slow down, oftentimes that's when you hit the gas, right? I mean, it's no different than the stock market, right? I mean, people talk about the money's made when it goes down, right? I mean, because you can buy it up and sell it when it comes back up. And I think that's what we're going to see in our space right now. Drag racing's always been a huge bang for your buck, but in the next few months, I think we're going to see some real favorable deals, some good things happen in our sport that hopefully it's some opportunistic companies go, you know what, these guys are bailing, that guy's not renewing. There's an opportunity for us to slide in here and take over and then kind of get right of first refusal moving forward. So like I said, it's easy to get, especially this time of year and, election looming, all these things and everything that's on mainstream media. It's like easy to get sad, right? But I mean, this is really a great time for the sport of drag racing specifically. And I think this is a sport that has been shown incredible resilience. I mean, most recently through COVID. Right? Racers going to go racing.
Yeah. The thing is, it just comes down to that. And it's just a matter of, I think people with COVID got so cooped up, they figured, the world's going to come to an end. I'm going to go out drag racing, for God's sake. I'm going to go out and do what I love to do, whether it's fishing, boating, whatever it was. And the fact that we get to have an outside, sport or, an activity that we all love to do, which actually fit the COVID, rules and regulations in some respect, I think it saved us really, because it was tough through there, and a lot of people were hurting, and I think the strong survived. It almost kind of trimmed the fat, so to speak, and a lot of companies came out stronger. I think we as a whole, through NHRA, through drag racing, come back even stronger because people have renewed resilience, and it's like, hey, life is short. Let's do what we want to do and enjoy it while you can, because tomorrow's not promised. So, I ran into some of that earlier this year when I lost funding. It was a matter of, I still want to drag race. I still got all the parts and pieces. This is what I love to do, and to find a way to make it work. And for the back half of the season, these last two races, Mark reached out to me and said, hey, how about we team up again? And for these last two races, your schedule, and we put Outlaw Beer on the car and have some fun. And I mean, what a perfect sponsor, beer and drag racing, right? I mean, it's like everybody cracks the cooler as soon as you get cracked into eliminations, right? And what better way to do it is with Outlaw Beer. I mean,
it's a match made in heaven, brother. I mean,
the presence at Brainerd, I don't know if you were out there, it was awesome. It really was. I mean, the elite group really did it well, as you would expect them to. And the zoo, the people there, I think, became big-time Outlaw Beer fans, thanks to me and Jag and the folks from Skag and everybody else. They had pallets of beer we were passing out there.
Man, and I think that's another example of what it takes. I saw Jerry Don Tucker do a display there at the convenience store and gas station that's there right at the entrance of the racetrack. And I'm going, this is brilliant. I mean, it's a fantastic way to add way more significant value than that logo on the door provides, right? I mean, this is how you get in front of customers. This is how you interact. This is how you build relationships. And I've really been impressed with it thus far. Going back to the Pro Superstar Shootout back in February, they had a massive presence down there as well. And I was really impressed with just the effort to be involved, because it is, we like to tell people that you need to account for some amount of your sponsorship revenue that you bring in. You need to earmark a certain amount of that for executing, for activating that investment. Leah Pruitt would tell you, Leah Stewart would tell you 20%, because if you're going to get $100,000 from some sponsor, man, you better be prepared to spend $20,000. I mean, wrapping trailers or putting stickers on places, getting shirts made, flying people in, setting up hospitality, bringing in catering. You've got to find a way to make sure that investment, ticks all the boxes for those people. And it's not always just in sales. There's a lot of different ways. Everybody kind of skins the cat differently there, and things mean different things to different people. But no, it's an exciting thing, man. So you mentioned that this is a 2-race deal, or at least for Brainerd and Indianapolis. But I mean, winning world championships, you're a dominating force in comp eliminator. I mean, what's your outlook for the rest of the season, or what's the grand plan? And maybe how do you feel about comp eliminator racing right now? I mean, it feels like Roger Brogdon, the NHRA, there's a lot of effort being put into revitalizing what I think is probably one of the most incredible classes and incredible eliminators in all of drag racing. I mean, what's your kind of state of the union on comp?
I think it's kind of, it mirrors pro stock, and it's kind of funny because a lot of pro stock racer guys who come up through the comp ranks, and that's what you always dream to do, is driving a pro stock car. And I'm one of those people. I'm not knocking the nitro categories. Would love to do it. Just, it wasn't my cup of tea. Or to me, the appeal was always to drive pro stock. Bob Glidden, Warren Johnson, those were my heroes growing up. And getting an opportunity to do so, it's kind of like, I think that's what every comp person's dream is, right? So, for a couple of years back there, we had a stretch where people were worried about the outcome of an outlook of pro stock. And then you had the guys at Elite and KB kind of teamed together and did what they needed to do to get this class alive. And I think you see it, the numbers there are bigger than you've gotten any of the pro categories. Roger Brogdon, thankfully, has pretty much taken it on himself. I mean, man's made a tremendous investment in competition eliminator, the category that he really sunk his teeth into. He delved in the pro stock, has come back to comp, kind of gone back and forth. And I think this is kind of where he feels grounded in this category. And the technology's out there. There's a place to race any combination, whether it's turbocharged, supercharged, naturally aspirated nitrous, you name it. There's a spot for you in comp, and you just got to be creative enough and to come up a way and be successful in it. So what Roger's done is put all this money into. You've seen drivers come out of the woodwork, new cars being built. And for a long time there, things were falling off, at a fast pace, because let's face it, it's not cheap. Going down the road's expensive, and all of us have full-time jobs. There's no professional sportsman racers out there these days. Dan Fletcher and David Rampy, those days of being able to make a living off your winnings have long gone, unfortunately. So now you've got to have another incentive, and the money Roger Brogdon's putting up, man, he's dangling a huge carrot in front of you to go racing. For me, the only reason I haven't chased it is because a lot of the races conflict with the NHRA broadcast, the Lucas Oil races, where I can't get away from. So it's kind of a catch-22. You make this big risk to try and win $250,000 or whatever he's got going for it, and you miss and you go broke and lose your job in the meantime. So with two kids that want to go to college someday, I've got to kind of be a little bit smarter and a little bit more frugal financially as to what I'm doing moving forward. But for me, when I lost funding at the beginning of this year, my thought originally was I was going to chase another championship. I had a car ready to go. I had a team ready to go. And I thought we had all the parts and pieces to be competitive and at least give it a run. And when that fell apart, realistically, it just wasn't possible anymore. And then, now I'm kind of seeing some of the light at the end of the tunnel here with the back half of my season. I'll cut it short after Indy because, quite frankly, my kid plays football. It's a senior season. He's being recruited by a lot of schools right now. He's a quarterback. Their team's ranked 4th in the state coming in after coming off 2 state semifinals. So I'll be there for every one of his goddamn football games. Hell or high water, nothing's going to keep me from watching my son perform out there because I'll never get the shot again. So to me, my goal was to be done by Indy and already run my races for championship. So hell or high water, I'll be done at Indy.
Wow, man, good for you. It's we talk all the time about the sacrifice that drag racing requires, and honestly, it's nice when you see racers, and you can't help but respect it when guys know that the pendulum needs to swing the other way for a little while, right? Yeah. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you, is that you keep a ferocious pace between your own racing endeavors, obviously the transmission business, the drive unit business specifically. Bruno's, you've got your television shows, various appearances on television shows you host, shows that you produce with your own company, as well as being an on-air personality for the NHRA on Fox broadcast. It's got to be a significant, and a family. You're married with children, right? I mean, that's a lot of stuff to do.
Keeps me around still. I think the best part of it, what makes it work for her, is the fact that I'm gone all the time. You know what I mean? She only catches me in small doses. When the winter comes, she's like, "Aren't you supposed to be at a drag race right now? Get the hell out of here! You're messing up my thing here." But yeah, for me, I've always been a person that's just like, man, I like kind of being active. I'm not good at sitting still. I'm not a good spectator. Even though I love drag racing, I'm a terrible spectator. I like being involved in any way possible. So for me, it's as a racer, is when, actually we sold the business in September, the Bruno's and the drive business. Just my father got to a point where he's turned 81, and I couldn't do it with everything else I had going on. So it was doing a disservice to our customers, disservice to the company that he built over the years, and I didn't want to do that. So Will Robertson, a good family friend, a guy out of South Carolina, former top sports racer and a longtime customer, purchased the business back in September. and he's taking it to the next level. I think he's got some great ideas and really pushing the business forward and keeping the Bruno's name on it, which means a lot to me because it's been my father's life, you know what I mean, to keep his legacy moving on. But from the TV side, I started my own production company. We've done the PRI show the last couple of years on Motor Trend. We've had some fun at the Drag Illustrated party, as you well know, and we'll be bringing it back. We were contracted to bring it back again next year, or for the 2024. Got some other things in the works we're trying to do with the folks at Motor Trend, another series we're trying to bring on to the network. So man, I like having irons in the fire. I like keeping busy. In the world that we've got right now, you have to have other things going on, because if something goes away, and stuff these days can all go away so fast, you're kind of stuck, right? So I'd always want to try and stay one step ahead. And man, I love the opportunities I've been given in my life. So I just want to keep plugging away with them. You know, I feel blessed. And if I didn't keep moving forward, that I think I'd be doing myself a disservice and the people around me.
Oh, I can't argue at all. What do you make of, I mean, obviously a little bit lighter schedule than we're used to out of Bruno Massel Jr., but the win in Brainerd this weekend, I mean, I keep going back. Mike, I want to bring Mike back here in a second, because I remember when I first met you almost 20 years ago, it seems like, in Brainerd, Minnesota, a mutual friend, Jason Sharp, a.k.a. Bubba Smooth, those who know, introduced. I remember having a conversation. We were trying to cook up. We wanted to put someone on the cover that we felt ticked all the boxes. That's always been one of our things, is like, we want him to be a good ambassador, great racer, promising future, doesn't hurt if they're like a photogenic individual. And I was having this conversation with Jason Sharp, and he's like, what about Bruno Massel? He's got that badass turbo 4-cylinder comp car. And I'm like, Bruno, like Bruno? He's like, no, it's his son. And I go, oh, I didn't even realize that he raced. And so one thing led to another. I literally drove whatever it was, 10 hours up from Missouri to Brainerd to meet you specifically to do this photo shoot. And interestingly enough, that was the first issue, the first cover or feature story, I think it was, that Mike ever designed for Drag Illustrated. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Long time ago now, coming up on 20 years. I think that was like 18 years ago, 2006 or
yeah,
7. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about all the technology that's arrived in drag racing, Bruno, how crazy is it that you were doing that then? Right? I mean, for those that don't know, why don't you give a little bit of breakdown on like your approach to comp eliminator racing? As you said, this is kind of a will make anything work type of class. We see V8 engines cut in half. We see all sorts of exotic 4-cylinder, 6-cylinders, big cubic inch nitrous stuff. We see 500-inch manually shifted stuff and like B altered or whatever, all these different configurations. But give us a little insight for those that maybe don't know the Bruno Massel Jr. Comp eliminator approach.
Well, you know, for me, I was running Top Sportsman. I ran, Top Dragsters, Super Comp, those categories in the past. And I started doing the NHRA Sport Comp X series as a host. I hosted the series for ESPN2 for a while. And I was just blown away that what these guys were doing. I think Brad Personette was the guy who really got me. You know, Brad's still around turning pro at Mod Cars. We became good friends. And watching that Titan car go 640s with 180 or 190 cubic inches, I think he was at the time, just blew me away. It was mind boggling. You know, I had a 615-inch nitrous motor and couldn't touch him. You know what I mean? So to me, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And it got to the point where the series was starting to kind of drizzle out, and NHRA was looking for a new home for it. And we've got these guys who supported us for so long. We got to give them a place to race. And they delved into Comp Eliminator. And the more I started digging into it, is a class I always wanted to get into in comp, because I wanted to go fast. I know you hit an index, but I always like the fact that you get there first, you win, without a breakout, that sort of thing. So it was like, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. And the more I delved into it, realistically, it was a matter of, there wasn't a lot of people doing it, so you can kind of trust your own path. You didn't have to worry about somebody killing your index or hurting you, from a performance standpoint. But financially, it wasn't that expensive because the engines were pretty much stock. It's production parts for the most part. Obviously, it's grown over the years. I've got a billet block now and stuff, but they were running production blocks until today. These guys are running 3,000 horsepower in a 2JZ production block. So it's just a matter of, can you figure out how to make this thing run? And it's funny. So my dad and I had this big debate back and forth. We were switching back from iTrade, coming to NHRA, and there was the Turbonetics car that Matt Stratton ran. It was the first one to go 200. It had a Toyota Tundra 329 cubic inch motor in it. They had just banned that V8, and the car was going to the NHRA museum. Well, Matt was a customer of mine, and I got to know the people at Turbonetics. And on a phone call on a whim, I called the guy at Turbonetics, Brad Lewis at the time, and I just said, "Hey, Brad, what are you doing with that car?" So I was going to go in the museum. I said, "Well, how much you let me run it?" It's like, "Have you ever run a turbo car?" I hadn't even driven a door car at this point. And I said, oh yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, we can handle this. And my dad's like, go get the goddamn car from Matt in Florida, drive down there, pick it up, come back, and we'll figure this thing out. And it took me a while. I'm not going to kid you, but by the end of that first season, we were Dawn 660s and a 2,850-pound car that was so outdated, and it was a blast. So ever since I kind of got a taste of it, I've kind of gotten farther in. Then I got involved with the Chevrolet Ecotech program, which was astounding. 130 inches, going, and front wheel drive cars going 200. And we blew up a lot of shit originally to learn, but that's how you learn. I mean, no one was paving a path for us. I think in one day in Phoenix, I went through 3 motors.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. People.
3? What was that? Tell us about that day. Like people, that sounds like a war story. So brutal. Phoenix, tell us, I want to hear this kind of start to finish.
Well, I had a lot of support from Chevrolet at the time, thankfully. And we had detonation issues. And so we were running on gas, turbocharged, and we got to a point where we were starting to push the engine a little bit. First run in the burnout, I hear something go, boom, dropped a valve. Came back, swapped the motor. And this thing, there was so much on top of the motor. I mean, the motor was just hiding under all the tubing and all of the stuff going on. Pulled another one, and then we blew up that motor going through the top end.
Do these have single turbos or twins?
This was single 76. Okay. It's on a 135-inch motor. And so it came down to my dad's beat, I'm beat. It's like 9 o'clock at night. He's like, listen, we got one more motor in the car. We have to put it in anyways because we're going from here. We're staying for the national event. Might as well just swap it. Well, 3 other guys came over, and through the middle of the night, we put this other motor in. Got the motor in about 4 o'clock in the morning. First round at 9, it let go again. We had basically a harmonics issue, which we were masking and didn't realize till afterwards. But those 4 cylinders, I mean, if you don't have Loctite on your seatbelts, they're going to get them loose. You know what I mean? Especially, then you put a turbocharger on top of it, and it just accentuates the whole issue. So it was a learning curve, to say the least. We blew up a lot of shit for 2 years, but then in the second year doing it in 2008, we won the division in Comp Eliminator and then won the World Championship in 2009. So we just kind of need to get past that curve, but there was no one out there doing it, so we kind of had to pave our own way, and that's Comp
Eliminator, though. I mean, that kind of is like the ethos of that class. Is it's kind of pave your own way. Everybody's doing some off the wall combination. And it kind of reminds me of like the early days of Pro Mod. And it still really is kind of bring your own combination. All the rules, are tried to, you've got all the different combinations competing in the same class. So it's kind of always been that way. And it's cool to see you stick with it for this long and then see your combination evolve to what it is now.
Well, I actually almost gave up on it. At the end of 2007, my wife actually told me, listen, I had 2 little boys at the time, and she's like, we just can't do this anymore. I mean, this is killing you. And my dad, literally, we sat down, it was around Christmas, and he's, listen, just one more season. I think I got this thing figured out. I think I can get the harmonics on it. You could just drive it. We'll be in good shape. And the old guy was right. So it was kind of cool the way that kind of whole thing came together. But like now the electronics and the stuff we're doing is so much different. It's so much more advanced. I mean, I had home built boost controllers I made with, we call them, at the time we used to call them crack pipes, where it's just boost valves with switching valves and 2 little lines running all over the place. Everything was mechanical, completely different world from the stuff we're doing now. Now, a lot of the stuff you can just buy, then you had to make it. So it's a lot more advanced now. Yeah. But the problem, one thing I've learned is with everything electronic, when you have a problem, you're screwed.
That's right. Those are electronic problems are the worst. But if you ever get tired of all that stuff, man, we'll welcome you over in Pro Mod. We'll get you in a Pro Mod. That's your next step that we need to see you in.
I've driven for customers. My dad would have some 8th mile cars, and I think the fastest I went in 8th mile was on like 368. Testing a guy's car for him down in St. Louis a couple years back. I'm just afraid of the new guy coming in thinking that, hey, this is cool. You can see both sides of my doors going down the racetrack. Because I've talked to those guys as customers on the phone. Man, you should have seen it. You can see both doors as I was going down the race. It was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, and you didn't lift? No? Okay. And what did the guy in the lane say next to you after you when he got out of the car at the other end?
High-fived him. Probably.
Yeah. That's how we roll.
Good job, man. Yeah, man.
That's Cowboys. I'm getting too old to get thrown into a wall.
And speaking of, we were talking about Brainerd, and I happened to catch the Fox broadcast this weekend, which I thought was excellent, by the way. And they had a killer piece that you guys did in the zoo, kind of like a sequel to what you guys did a couple years back with Jeg. But we got Jordan Vandergriff thrown in the mix now. And you guys were kind of playing off this deal where I think they call him Junior. I think he's Bruno Junior, I guess. He's kind of cut from the same mold as you. And you guys had this awesome segment in the zoo, kind of playing off like The Hangover, maybe a little bit. Really well done. Where does that come from? Like, do you guys come up with those ideas and kind of pitch it to the production team, or is that like
years ago? the first year Fox came on doing this, the guy who was in charge at the time said, "Hey, I want to do this little walk through the zoo and just get a kind of a flavor of what's going on." I like to have a good time like everybody else, right? You know what I mean? And the thing is, I think if you pretend it's not there, you're fooling the audience. So let's just be real with them. Let's go out and have a good time, and, within reason. You can't show people drinking on air and that kind of thing. But I took it to kind of a different level the first year by myself, and I figured, you know what? Let me bring in some of the other guys. So the first year, next year, I brought in Steve Torrance, and then I had this idea to bring in Jeg. For the people who don't really know Jeg, he is Jeg the Tank, like Frank the Tank. There's,
I think Jeg was drinking on camera during this segment. He got away with it.
We actually had to cut some more stuff out because we couldn't get it past with the folks at Fox, God bless him. But, he's this straight-laced guy, this very incredible businessman with Jegs for all these years. But when you have a few beers with him, he's this party animal, man. We have experience. Yeah, I know that side of him. The people at home don't. And we all know Steve's crazy, and he'll do whatever he wants to do. Yeah. So I pitched it to the guys. I said, hey, you just got to trust me. I won't make you look bad, but I think people get to see who you really are if we go and have some fun. So we actually did a spoof of the first year of The Hangover, and then the next year we did it of Old School. And we actually at one point called Steve Torrance out on the stage, and he was in his boxers, and he said, we're going streaking, and ran through the crowd. The crowd had no idea what was happening. And there's thousands of people like, what in God's name? And Jake and I rip our shirts off, and we go running across the bridge in the zoo, where he runs into me. He's literally rolling on the ground bleeding. And that wasn't fake. It was for real. But so Lauren Adams is the camera person. It's literally her and I, and Natalie Torrance with a flashlight as our lighting crew. That's as exotic as it gets. And we hammer out these ideas over the course of the last month heading into the event, Lauren and I, and we just go out and shoot it and have some fun. And it's probably one of my favorite things because you get to go out there and have some fun. It's a crazy place, and it's something that's unique to Brainerd and I think of the sport of drag racing. And I think that's what our fan base is. And it's people who like to have fun, don't take themselves too seriously. And what's wrong with having a good time,
Yeah, I think we need to see more of that. Every time I see something like that, I love it. And I'm like, NHRA, Fox, you guys need to do more of that stuff to show the personality of these drivers. Even, you as a, on-air personality, show your personality as well. I think that's a huge thing that we're missing. We always say it's just car after car after car. And I know you guys are up against time constraints and everything else, but anytime you can sneak that stuff in there, I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. My boss, Steve Righteous, I got to tell you, he's been really great about it because the past leadership wasn't a big fan of it and actually butted heads over it, but he's embraced it. And I think he's got the same mentality as we need to show some personalities, So we brought Jordan in. Jordan's a great guy. We've got to know him a little bit this year. I knew him a little in the past, but never got to actually spend any real time with him. And they call him Junior because allegedly he's a much younger version of me.
Yeah, I can totally see it. The opening part of that deal, when you guys are kind of, you're looking in the mirror, I forget what's going on. He's like, hey man, hurry up. It's a 2-minute segment. We got to go. You're kind of waxing nostalgic about something. He's like, it's a 2-minute segment. Lock it in.
It's all fun, man. And
the personalities are a big part of this, man, because I do think that we're so laser focused and so trained historically to just, tight shot on cars, pan shot on cars, parachute shot. And those things are necessary, right? Sure. But I think that they pale in comparison to the power and impact of sharing these people's personalities and telling their stories, because that's how you get a hook in somebody. Like seeing Jag acting like that, or being a real person, a real human being that maybe isn't completely perfect all the time, right? That it's a great way to sell you on him. And I think that is something that's been a lost art, and we loved seeing it
and embracing like the unique aspect of Brainerd and the zoo, instead of looking at it like, yeah, that's a cool thing if you're in the know, but we're not going to publicize it. Embrace it and make it a part of the broadcast, and maybe people are going to show up just to see what that's about. I think that's an important part of the whole deal that's missing. So, kudos to the whole team on that.
It's something I've always looked forward to doing, and I take a lot of pride in doing it. Like Christy Cupham from the racetrack, she's a huge supporter of it. She tries to help us navigate through any kind of pitfalls along the way. And actually has told me over the years that when we do that segment, her sales go through the roof as a result for the following year, because people want to be a part of it. Who doesn't want to have a good time, right? So I think it's beneficial in many ways. You get to see, I think the first year we did it, Steve was in a spot where people were kind of getting a hard time about some different stuff, and people saw him in a completely different light because he's a great dude. You know what I mean? Steve
Torrance is an awesome guy. He took a really bad rap over that Cameron Foray top end exchange, which, to be honest, here to say again, love to see it. Love to see somebody show me they care. That's all I ever ask for. I mean, I tell that to our own drivers here. Like, hey, look, I don't need you to act. I don't need you to pretend. I don't need you to be someone you're not. but I love when you show me how much you care. I know you care, but all these people out here in the stands, all these people watching online, they need to know you care too. And they can't decipher that, with you behind a visor, in a helmet, behind the wheel of a race car. So when we stick a camera in your face, I want to see you care. And I think that what we've seen from Steve Torrance is he's a young man that kind of wears his heart on his shirt sleeve, not afraid to tell you what he thinks. And I think we need more of that, not less. I was really frustrated during that whole time that you're talking about, because I felt like he was kind of being vilified for something that we should have been cheering for. Now, I understand we want people to be great sportsmen and all of those things. I think those are expectations. You should treat people the way you want to be treated. But that type of thing is going to happen, especially in a highly competitive environment such as NHRA championship drag racing. So it was no surprise to me. But I think you're right. Those segments, like this Torrance segment in the zoo at Brainerd, it lets people see him in a different light, lets them see that this is a good old boy from Texas that's having a big time, living his dream. Let's lean in, not lean away. So I'm curious, and we've got a little surprise guest here, Bruno. We've got a little bit of a sketchy connection with Blake, but I wanted to make sure if we had the opportunity, we got the green light from the pregnant wife that he could come on the show and talk shop with us, even though she was having a baby today. Is it okay to ask, Blake, or are we in the clear? All good?
Yeah, we're in the clear. I'm not on Wi-Fi because it wasn't really working, but I switched to normal things, so I think it's working better now with just cell service. But I don't know.
Sound good, man. Well, everything good, and happy mom, happy dad, and happy baby?
Yeah, everything's good so far. He's a little smaller than the other little boy, but that's just fine. He's going to be bigger later, is what everyone says. So we're nursing him back up to health, and I just swaddled him, double swaddled, and put him down, and Leah's sleeping and he's sleeping, and then I walked out and got a beer.
Well done, man. Well, hey, on behalf of all of us at Drag Illustrated and Bruno Massel Jr., the man, the myth, the legend, congratulations, brother. I mean, it's awesome to get to talk to you on the day you have have a child, man. Yeah, this is number 2, right?
Yes, sir. We had to get up at 4 a.m. today and got in here, and Leah did everything, so admirably, so strongly the last 9 months, really. So I wasn't really that worried about today. And then when the time comes, you always get very nervous about health. And thankfully, he's very feisty, just like his dad.
Not totally surprised, buddy. Well, hey, congratulations, man. And it's great to hear from you. Bruno, do you mind hanging out for a minute while we chat with Blake? Because I'd like to have you involved in this. I mean, Blake, incredible weekend for you. Fantastic to see someone that has fought the good fight as long as you have and continued to go to war each weekend to finally get to renewed confidence, right? Kind of remind yourself of what you're capable of and that you belong out here. Great story for the sport. I've always pegged you as a fantastic ambassador for drag racing. Great young man that's doing great things in our sport, and we need to see you in the winner's circle. Bruno, you were there. Blake, before I even get your reaction, because I would like to hear Bruno's, don't you feel that, Bruno, whenever one of the guys that we all want to wins, right? I mean, and nothing against a Ron Capps win, nothing against a J.R. Todd win, nothing against a Austin Prock win, but when someone's been fighting it the way that y'all have been fighting it to see him win, I mean, do you sense it at the event, Bruno?
Oh, 100%, especially after what he went through in Sonoma. I mean, he had a tough weekend, let's just be honest, in every way, shape, or form. And Blake's a guy who wears everything on his sleeve. I've known Blake since, he's still a kid as far as I'm concerned, but he was running Comp Eliminator with me back in the day.
I was the oldest winner last weekend.
That's crazy, man. Wow. we grew up quick, didn't we, buddy? But you see him, you could hear him screaming when he pulled around the corner before he even got out of the car. I mean, the emotion was real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't a matter of plugging sponsors for 30 minutes and doing all. That's obviously, it's a huge part of our sport. And that's what forces us to do it. But it was so raw. It was so real. It was made it great to see, especially what he went through last weekend, come back the weekend after and have his head in the right place. And from a driving standpoint to a tuning standpoint, everything came together. It was what TV's made for. That's what you want to see.
Just like we said, letting us know how much it means to you. Blake, tell us how much did that win this last Sunday in Brainerd mean to you and your team?
It meant a lot. I mean, I honestly told my wife and a bunch of other people that on Monday morning we were already thinking about Indy way more than people recognize. But we did take some time on Sunday and enjoyed it. And it was a lot of fun to to not know I didn't know I was going to win. I just don't know. I don't know, and I go out there and I want to try my hardest and I know what I can do, like you said, but it kind of was a reminder moment for me and for Jim and for Dave and for all of our families that, are fighting they're sacrificing with us while we're out here doing this, and they want to see us do well and know we can do well. So it's cool to show that.
Oh, it was incredible. And I mean, and you talk about like really showing your stuff. I mean, your reaction times throughout the weekend, like, you see the odd, really good reaction time. And we've kind of seen that across the board in nitro racing, right? Like there's more of an emphasis on the starting line today than I would argue at any point in the past. The level of drivers that exist at this point in time are just, it's an absolute incredible thing to see. But to see you go 057, I think, to 069, like, you talked a little bit in one of your posts. I can't remember which round it was, but one of your top end interviews, you're beating yourself up a little bit, talking about how you had some struggles and, the team had missed it here and there and you had missed it here and there. Like, can you share with us, like, what did you find something? Was there an epiphany of some sort? Because you talk about a driver that's locked in. You're talking about Blake Alexander.
In Seattle, I just didn't do that good. And it was more like, sometimes people don't realize this, but I actually am working really hard all the time to try to find money to do this. And sometimes I get caught up in all the business of it and the association of that. After I got done, people don't realize this, like after I got done and I blew up on Friday night in Sonoma, I was with people that sponsor me, like 25 of them. And I have to talk to them about our sport and how great it is and how safe it is. And because it is actually pretty safe. And I felt like we proved it, but sometimes that gets in the way a little bit of smashing the gas and being a dumb driver, like Jim and I like to call it, because I kind of do have to turn that off. And I wasn't doing a very good job of that. And then obviously in Sonoma, just with the engine damage and stuff like that, I would say that I was a little gun shy. I was pretty banged up on Friday night. Like my knees, to be honest with you, still hurt pretty bad from hitting the cage. And my back hurt pretty bad and my neck. And, I was just pretty banged up. And I said on another one of the shows I did recently that I tried to run the first day. I got back from Sonoma and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to run like 4 miles like I normally do, but I couldn't even run full speed because my body, like legs and back hurt so bad. And I told Leah about it. And then I just kept going and kept trying to kind of just make sure that I was working towards getting better. And I knew like I would probably be fine by the time I got to Brainerd, and then I would have the chance to prove to people that that was just a fluke weekend and there's a lot of stuff going on, Even in Seattle, when I didn't do that well, like we still went to the semifinals, and it's not like I did terrible. I had a 088 light against Paul Lee in the semifinals. It's just to put a lot of pressure on these teams and to do really well, you got to do what a Proc or a JR or what these guys do, where you have the car, you've got the driver, and come and get it.
There's no doubt. Bruno, before we cut you loose, brother, I was just curious, like, how much can you relate to that? I mean, as somebody who oftentimes is wearing multiple hats at the racetrack, we've seen you race and do on-air work. We've seen you, bringing out these new partners and these big relationships with sponsors and trying to manage that. I mean, can you relate to that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's sometimes just getting in the car is relief, because at that moment, all you have to do is think about what you're in. And the thing is getting yourself to a point where you can get in the car and only think about that. That's the hardest part. And sometimes it's a struggle. There's some weekends you can turn it on and turn it off, and others you just can't help separate the two. And those are obviously the weekends you struggle. You just try and survive that weekend and try and find a better, headspace for the next. But it's like any athlete, you know what I mean? Like Jordan, those guys, sometimes they're in because, this big around, sometimes it's tiny and the ball just doesn't fit, but a weekend like Blake just had, and things just came together. The weekend before, he, couldn't beat a nail with a hammer if he tried. You know what I mean? You just have those weekends, but you just got to be resilient enough to get back up, clear your head, and have enough belief in yourself that you're going to be able to get through it because you've been there before and you've done it.
Right. It's amazing when you can see it happen. And do you guys agree that oftentimes these things, because you can watch from afar and recognize like a group achieving synergy, so to speak, right? Like, oh, wow, this thing is humming. Do you feel that it oftentimes, like Blake and Bruno, we'll let you go momentarily. I want to loop you in on this last kind of bit of the conversation, but do you agree? Like I'm talking to two guys who won on Sunday. How much does that kind of change your perspective moving forward? I mean, Bruno, you're doing a lot of winning in your career. Blake, but do you feel the same thing where it's kind of like breaking through a ceiling or breaking through a wall, like a reminder that, hey, we can do this. We know how to win? it should be easier moving forward? I mean, it never seems to be.
Well, in this business, I'm just relying on the race car, and the race car's fast right now. So as long I think as you have a race car that's competitive, then you've got guys that want to lock in, and you've got a driver who wants to lock in. I mean, you're always trying to do that no matter what, and you're never trying to do anything wrong. But when there's a certain type of pressure on you, when you know that you've got the car and you actually know that you can deliver the goods, that's when you see winning teams come out.
I agree. Bruno, your thoughts on kind of breaking through that ceiling or riding the momentum? I mean, both of you guys have riffed on, like, you were thinking about Indy on Monday morning. I mean, you get the trophy put in the truck and you're already on to the next one.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, I'm already planning to go and test in Bowling Green on Wednesday with Brad Person and a bunch of those guys getting ready for Indy, because I'm going to try something a little different with the car. But like what he said, I didn't have a Sonoma, but my season thus far, I've been to 3 races, and that was the first win line I turned on was first round of Brainerd. I blew up a ton of stuff, had some stupid stuff go on early in the season. I went to Richmond, my only other race in comp, and didn't make it past the burnout. So, you get to a while like, man, did I forget what I'm doing? Do I still know how to drive one of these things? Do I still know how to tune one of them? And it takes a weekend like this all of a sudden sometimes to turn it back around, because you got those lows and you want to ride those highs and keep it going as long as you can. So rather than pull back and kind of sit on your ass and celebrate, you give yourself 24 hours to do it. And now you move forward, and that's the best game plan to move forward so you can be successful again.
Yeah, it's always that you're only as good as the last run, right? And it's
Are you having a baby? Sport. Are you having a baby this week to celebrate too?
I've got too much older babies. Trust me, they get a lot more expensive when they get older, brother.
Oh my good, ain't that the truth?
We're doing some forward thinking right now, but not that far ahead.
Yeah, you'll be lucky if drag racing's in it. Let's hope that it is. But oftentimes when I hear drag racers say forward thinking, it means that they're on the way out. They're going bass fishing. Let's hope that's not the case with Blake Alexander. Bruno, congratulations on a hell of a weekend, man. It's always great to see great ambassadors for our sport in the winner's circle, given the attention, given the opportunity they deserve to spread the gospel of drag racing. So congrats. Great to have you on here. Hope we can do it again soon. And I guess we'll see you in Indy, brother.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Good chatting with you. And Blake, congratulations, bud, on the win.
Yeah, man.
Man, you've had a hell of a week.
Yeah, it's probably not over yet. I don't think it's over yet.
All right,
thanks, Bruno. Talk soon,
congrats,
brother.
Man.
Oh, my goodness, Blake. Well, hey, I know you're obviously in a precarious situation, and we don't want to keep you for long, but it is great to have you on here. And again, fantastic to see you guys turn things around. I mean, look forward to the remainder of the season. We're kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty, rolling into the U.S. Nationals. We got the countdown to the championship started. I mean, kind of take us through the lay of the land right now as far as how you feel. I mean, obviously, as you said, you've got a car that can compete, a driver that's locked in and very capable of doing what needs to be done and to turn on when lights, like Bruno was saying. But I mean, what's your kind of take on the rest of the season and your guys' immediate plans?
Our immediate plans are kind of just to do more of the same. I know it's not that exciting to say, but every single time we go up there, we try to look at the grip and run the car as hard as we possibly freaking can. So we don't really have to change from that necessarily. I do think that this race in Indy will be a little bit hotter, and we'll probably be needing to run the car a little bit more like, I would say, the second, third round in Brainerd, or maybe some other runs, like in Norwalk maybe. But yeah, honestly, it's just very analytical over at our team, and we try to look at everything down to a science and then bring the car up to the racetrack based on that, heavy level of thinking. I think we track I can't remember if it's like 64 or something crazy different, parameters on our car. And Jim and Dave, sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. And on Sunday it was good. We had everyone was just locked in and they had complete control of the car. And they really have all year, to be honest with you. We just hadn't won a race yet. And there's a time in Epping where we were in the final of the Too Fast, Too Tasty and just got picked off by Force a couple times. And Hagen and Dickey have taken some shots at us, and it's fun to see these guys taking shots at us, to be honest with you. And we get to take shots back at them. So, can take the body blows and move on.
Yeah, man. I mean, because that's got to be something of a badge of honor, eh? Like to know those guys are going up there and know they've got to lay one down to get around you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They do. They ran in Norwalk the last time we raced them. They were low ET and had the best reaction time of the round. And you were like, these guys were trying really hard. And a couple of years ago, I would say people more or less laid up to make us make a mistake. And that just like we've changed a lot of stuff on the car since then, so it really doesn't even like, it's not like someone got way smarter or did something way different, but it's just like we've figured out how we have a livable combination where it runs the numbers that are competitive easily, I would say. Like when we ran that run on Friday night, there's still another knob to turn, you know, there's still more inside this thing. Now, that being said, we don't really have to go there sometimes, and that's nice because sometimes you would make a run in the past on our car, we'd run 388 or 389. It looked like it was barely hanging on by a thread. So now it's making it pretty easy. The tire temperatures are down, and it's a happy race car.
There's few things better than a race car that's responding. What's it like racing with Jim Head, a guy that's had a handful of different drivers over the years? We've seen some big personalities in there. We've seen some guys have success. I mean, his son drove for him for a while, but it seems like that there's a real match made in heaven here between Blake Alexander and Jim Head. What's that whole situation like? I mean, can you maybe explain why that is or why it works so well?
Yeah, we just have fun racing together. We make fun of each other. We talk shit, and we basically try to. He's friends with my friends. I'm friends with his friends, and we all kind of get along. And he's kind of like a big kid, even though he wouldn't really admit it. He
scares the shit out of me. If he looks my way, I want to duck and cover.
I feel that way too sometimes too. Don't get me wrong, but he's honestly chilled out a lot in his older age, and he loves to do this. And I think some people need to understand that he's doing this with his own money a little bit more so than like, you know, he loves doing it, and that changes the calculus of it a little bit more. I feel like I would care a little bit more if it was I'm spending my money on it, if you know what I'm saying. And I just didn't realize that till I got around him. And he cares a lot, and I care a lot, and I want to kind of learn about the way he does things, the way he sees things, where every single thing is a question, if you know what I'm saying, and there's an answer to it. And, you know, kind of peel the onion back on everything in life, more or less.
I mean, what an example to follow, right? I mean, you're talking about a guy who's achieved enormous success in business, is quite clearly painfully intelligent, a very sharp operator. I mean,
painfully.
Yeah, painfully, right? I mean, tell me a little bit about like that approach, and like, were there any like early stories when you joined the team that you were caught off guard by or really surprised by, or maybe something that you never experienced before in your previous racing endeavors?
I just think it's weird. They make fun of me for being emotional all the time, and I think it's weird that the older generation of cats out here, like, you win a race and like shake their hand and they don't even really want to be in the winner's circle. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just like no emotion at all. And they kind of have taught me how to be that way over 5 years, and I kind of like it, to be honest with you, where you just nothing really gets you excited anymore. But at the same time, sometimes I get excited and I want to let loose, and I think it's kind of cool that I get to do that, because I brought that new element to the team, and there's some younger guys on the team now. There's a lot of younger guys on the team now. We have a much younger nucleus of people, and that kind of has fostered a younger vibe on the race team in general. And he's embraced that and worked with us, and kind of, he's always been that type of guy. Even though he's 75, he's sending you emojis, and he flies his own plane, and he runs 2 miles every day. He's honestly, like, if he had an Instagram, he would look pretty cool, but he doesn't, so. I've showed him like Instagram stories before, and he's like, "What the hell? You're posting what you're doing?" I'm like, I mean, I tagged some people who are paying us to be here, so.
Yeah, exactly, right? You're playing the game. No, it's so true, man. Yeah, somebody's got to do it, man. Well, so hey, kind of closing notes here, because I want to send you back upstairs to the baby. And again, thanks, Blake, for taking the time, man. You mentioned something about just the younger nucleus. One of the issues that we've heard from teams like the last several years is like how hard it has been to secure good help and to get good young men and women to work on these cars. Obviously, you've got a great group around you. I mean, where are these young folks coming from, and what kind of experience have you had with that type of thing? I mean, you've been involved in building out these teams and seeking help and getting help. I mean, what's the lay of the land out there for, a team owner operator in the nitro ranks?
We've been hiring kids directly out of technical school, and we've hired some kids one of the guys on our team's out of the military, and my goodness, he has a good attitude and works really hard even when things aren't good. And yeah, it's really, we're just trying to find people who have positive attitudes and want to be there. And I don't say they want to be there on Friday night at Sonoma when all the cars are running. They want to be there in the trenches with us at 7 a.m. in the van after you went to bed at 3 a.m. the night before, you know. So it's kind of a unique thing to find someone who really wants to do it and is committed. And then we found some men who are down for the cause, and we take care of them, and Jim takes care of me, and, you know, life is good.
One of my favorites, actually, our producer, Blake Fontenelle's dad, said this to me one time. He said, Damon Fontenelle, he said to me, he goes, I'd rather have an eager 6, you know, an eager 6 or an eager 7 than a prima donna 10, right?
Yep.
Or a halfway invested 10. And that always kind of resonated with me. And it actually made me feel, I had all of a sudden, like almost instantaneously, I stopped worrying about like how qualified people were for like a position, or if I was looking for some help or whatever. If I could find somebody that was eager and that wanted to be a part of it and wanted to do the work and wanted to learn and wanted to get better, I'll take that every day of the week over somebody that's like more skilled, more experienced, etc., but is kind of haphazard or doesn't care, isn't invested. It's just another gig. It's just another job. I mean, so that's basically what you're saying is kind of maybe one of the things that is the missing piece is the right attitude. I mean, there's probably plenty of people out there that are skilled or have the experience to contribute to the team, but it's like, are they here for the right reasons?
Yeah. I mean, Del Worsham taught me that when I first met him a long time ago. He literally just hires people based on their good attitudes. And it's like, honestly, the way I've expanded upon it is you've been out here for a while and you want to tell us how everyone else has done stuff and how you learned how to do stuff. That's great. But we hired you to do stuff the way we want to do stuff. And sometimes it's hard to beat that bad stuff out of people or remove that bad stuff from them. So that's why you got to be careful if you're talented, you know, that you still have to be a blendable piece to a race team, because every single person on a race team, other than Jim, he like sponsors the car, tunes the car, and owns it. It's pretty replaceable. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, it's an unfortunate truth. I mean, it's like there's a lot of capable people out there. There's several billion people on the planet. There's people that will do the work, but like finding the ones that'll do it with a smile on their face and be there at 4 o'clock in the morning when you're. I mean, what do you say about that group of guys? I mean, you talk about a young nucleus, Blake. Were you surprised at their willingness to dive right in and kind of continue the fight, or did you think that moments like that can sometimes lose some people?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I was always taught when you have a really bad explosion, like you're supposed to go out there as the driver, and like with Paul Smith taught me that, to just go out and keep working on the car, you know, and like do whatever you can to help, just to show like, you know, we're working. All we're gonna do is work right now, and so we did that on Friday night in Sonoma, and then the next run, the car blew up again, and it blew the whole firewall out of our backup body. And it's not like, you know, we have 75 guys on our race team that are all going to hang out together, and a Big Four manufacturing company is going to come over and help us with all their other teammates too. We literally just fixed it all with 4 full-time guys, a 75-year-old man, my dad, and my hospitality guy. So it's like, you know, Dave and other people were there too. But it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of work every single night, every single run. And then, you know, even to get the next round against Proc, we still hurt the motor in the final of that Too Fast, Too Tasty thing on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, I lost on a hole shot to Chad Green. It was literally, and I flew down on his freaking jet too. So it was even more insulting. The boy who flew me down there slapped me around and sent me home.
Oh my gosh, that's rough, buddy. That is absolutely rough. Well, I sure appreciate it. Like, you sent me the picture of Jim flying you guys home on Sunday night, and I'm like, it's a good way to do it, man. You're gonna go win one, take some pictures in the winner's circle, and fly home with the boss man. So
I still got I got my wristband on too. So
this is legit, man. There might be some people looking for you. Well, Blake,
the hospital is right
man.
there. The hospital is right there, and I'm right here. So.
Well,
everything is all good.
I'm so glad. We appreciate you, buddy. Get back to Leah. Send her our well wishes and congratulations. And we look forward to seeing you keep this thing alive at the U.S. Nationals in just a couple of days.
Yes, sir. I mean, I honestly think that if you look last year, it's no coincidence that the two winners of Brainerd went on to win Indy. The racetracks are similar. I don't think the conditions are going to be as similar. Like Indy can get hot, and it looks like on the 10-day it's going to be kind of hot, but we can run in hot and cool conditions now, and I think that's kind of cool because a lot of times when you see an underdog team or a single car team win these races, they're not doing it with performance, and we're going to do it with performance and with skill.
Well, we can't wait to see it, buddy. From your mouth to God's ears. Be careful, Blake. Tell everybody hello, and congrats again, buddy.
All right, it's good talking to you guys. Have a good day.
You too, brother. Well, hey, gang, I want to take a quick second here real quick and remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety right up the road from me here in DFW in Oklahoma City. Purveyors of the world's finest safety equipment, 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com. Make sure you tell them your friends at Drag Illustrated sent you. I'm actually looking forward. I think Tommy Cunningham and I, the owner of Stroud Safety, are planning on maybe going. I think JT, Mike, we may go to a road race with my old buddy Jason Dukes in the coming weeks. It's always nice to get out and see those other racing environments, right? Like we all get so used to seeing things operate in a certain way just repeatedly at the drag strip, and I think it's important to go to some of these other events to just see how they do things. So we got some shared interest, obviously, in safety equipment. I mean, it's his business, and it's something that we believe in tremendously because of the racing that we put on, the events that we put on. So we kind of wanted to put our heads together and go out there and see what other industries were doing. I think we may find that drag racing is leading the charge probably far more than we realize when it comes to a lot of these safety solutions, but it'll be fun nonetheless, man.
They put on a good show. Jason shares a lot of the pictures with me from those events, and man, they do it upright.
Oh yeah,
we got to get Jason back doing the racing business, man. I just realized he was on like hiatus. I think he had what do you have, neck surgery or something?
He had neck surgery.
Yeah, he was out. Yeah. So looking forward to getting that fire back up. I actually mentioned him,
show.
And we had someone reach out that I think would be a great fit for that. So it made me think we haven't seen an episode in a while. So hope he's doing well and get those back rolling. But
he's pretty much on the mend.
I just realized Blake, I always forget Blake Alexander lives in Charlotte because I don't know. He just doesn't strike me. I can't remember that he lives here. When he showed where he was, I was like, oh, I know exactly where that is. So
yeah, he's having a baby right down the street from
you. He is. You know, it's funny. Charlotte, everybody in Charlotte was born in the same hospital up until like the 90s. We had one hospital. And it's everybody that was born in Charlotte was born in the same hospital.
Hey, man, Kirksville, Missouri only has one hospital. I've never lived anywhere that doesn't have it.
I think this is a non-issue. But yeah, that baby's being born, looked like to me, in the new hospital. So not the same
Nothing
one.
But the best.
We had an old
hospital
too. We had an old one, then we had the new one. Yeah, Grim Smith. Yeah.
Man, I was thinking about your conversation while you were talking with Blake there, and they had some good insight with Jim Head in the interview with him right after he won on the starting line. And Jim said, I forget exactly what he said, but so I'll paraphrase it. But it was, that's great that we won, but I'm out here to lay down numbers and run low ET. And it reminded me of our pro mod guys. We joke a lot about our pro mod guys and our radio guys, how they tend to, I don't care. I went out first round, but I was number one qualifier, reset the record. And I've never really thought about that when it comes to fuel racing. I always think those guys are pretty conditioned for points, championships, wins. But Jim Head marches to the beat of his own drum. We know that. And he admitted right there that the team or Blake had kind of helped him break that habit, and they had slowed the car down and made it a little more conservative so that it would go some rounds, so that it wouldn't blow up, so that it would be tuned for race day versus qualifying. So I thought that was interesting to hear him say that and kind of admit, I'm always out here trying to lay a number down. Winning, that's cool, but I'm trying to lay down the big number and blow over the scoreboard.
Racers like
Jim talked into backing it down to win. And now we're seeing the success and seeing these guys. I mean, they're qualifying in the top half of the field pretty consistently, going rounds, now winning some races. So it's good to see them put that combination together.
I think we need those dark horse teams. I mean, we need some, like I said, we're so grateful for the incredible cast of characters and something that the usual suspects that we have at this point in time, right? You know, fantastic crop of star racers in the Nitro ranks. But it is great to see. I mean, Ida Zetterstrom, you know, fresh off her appearance on the show last week, goes out, makes her debut, and really looked great. I mean, from stage in the car, back in the car up, burnouts, everything that I saw, I felt like she did a fantastic job. But it's just good to have some new people in the mix that are capable of winning races, because it seems like oftentimes we get these new, somebody who is particularly good on camera or has a strong social following, but they don't find themselves in a competitive car,
right?
You know, so we don't
like
hear
one
enough
or the
from
other.
them. Yes, very much the case. It's so JT talks about it all the time that, you know, so many of the biggest characters in our sport aren't really in a position to race at the level that we need them to be racing at, you know, or aren't able to race on a frequent enough basis to kind of get momentum and turn it into something of a career. So it's great seeing someone like Blake Alexander in the winner's circle.
Blake, Ida, both of them. I mean, they both do a great job marketing,
Blake,
social sponsors, and Blake. And that's the other thing about Blake and Jim Head. They do seem like very similar, cut from the same cloth, kind of have that dry humor. And he said they kind of go back and forth picking at one another. So I can kind of see Blake almost like a young Jim Head.
Blake was Blake's odds last weekend were plus 1801. So if you laid $100, if you laid $100 down on Blake, you would have made 1801. And some of our guys on Who You Got, Elin, myself, I put a little bit on it. They rode pretty hard with Ida, and her odds were 3384. So $100 wins you 3,384.
And she was a round away from going to the finals.
That's right.
Yeah, she got that round one.
Yeah,
win.
I know. I was like, oh man, because that would have. That's a big win.
Yeah, she got that round one win and then a bye the next round because of the car count. And then I guess something happened. I guess she just got rattled or something. She was really hard on herself at the top end. I don't know if you guys saw that, but obviously all the emotion and pressure of that whole deal. And she said that was the first time in her drag racing career that she had ever red lit, which I thought was interesting as well. And maybe that's not 100% true or whatever, but she's said that right there, that she was embarrassed and was, really hard on herself, more so than she probably needed to be considering the circumstances.
But I think those moments,
was her first red light in her career.
I mean, I think it's important for those things to happen. I mean, I hate to obviously to see Ida Zetterstrom red light, but I do think it's a great reminder for the fan base when you see those big reactions and you recognize that, like, no matter how technologically advanced these cars are, no matter how many electronics they get on them, no matter whatever happens, right? We've heard that kind of woe from the drag racing faithful for years and years and years. Like, oh, the cars drive themselves. I've seen a rider on the driver's door, with driver crossed out. I mean, there's all these thoughts, but there's still a human being, there's still a human being in that car that most definitely can make or break what happens out there.
We need to see that.
And you have to cut lights right now. I mean, we've talked about it. The past several years, everybody's gotten so good at cutting lights in like Funny Car and Top Fuel. Like, you better be on your game. Even
no
Pro
doubt.
Stock has got who have always cut pretty good lights. I mean, they're just killing the tree.
There's no slouches over there anymore.
No,
and Drag Racing Mayhem was pointing out about Austin Prock. He was super hard on himself also.
Yeah.
I think after first round, I can't remember which round it was, but man, these guys, it was great to see the emotion and to see the personality. We talked about the thing with Bruno going into the zoo. The broadcast was really great this weekend, and I don't catch every Fox broadcast. I admit that, and I tend to watch NHRA TV more times than not. Even if the Fox broadcast is on and it's live, I stay on NHRA TV, so I don't see some of the production value that's going into that and some of the top end interviews and everything. And it was really good. So kudos to the Fox team and everybody in the truck and behind the scenes, because I think they are embracing some of these new personalities they have, some of this new content they have to work with. They're not having to tell the same stories over and over again. They've got some new fresh faces to, take advantage of and put out there, and they're doing a good job of it.
What do you make of, it really is crazy. I mean, I don't know how much the car setups have changed, Mike, but it does seem reaction times, I mean, we've never seen them like they are right now in nitro racing.
Right.
I mean, just seeing Justin Ashley and Josh Hart, like I look in the semifinals, I think it was Justin was 0.47 and Josh Hart was 0.35. Sean Langdon 0.42. I mean, just seeing the sheer volume of like 0.30, 0.40 lights. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you're going to win if your car's fast and you're cutting 70, 80 lights, you're winning a world championship.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even really bothered. I mean, there was points in times, and I'm not trying to discount it all, but I mean, I think there was several moments in time where Tony Schumacher just needed to see green, you know, because he had the field covered in terms of performance, and the starting line was just relatively inconsequential. Not the
I think
case
guys
today.
are getting after it early. I mean, you were asking about car setups or what's changed, and I don't know. Haven't really given any thought or have no knowledge about that. But maybe they're just getting more aggressive, and as these cars react quicker, 60 foot better, and they start to really try to make up ET in the first half of the track, they are we're seeing it in better reaction times also. Maybe these cars were always set up to let's just get this thing off the line, blow through the clutch, have all the fuel and timing out of it, and then ramp it in. Maybe they're with track prep, tires, technology, everything, they're starting to get more aggressive, and just the reaction of the cars is what's improving the reaction times and these drivers as well.
And drivers, the young guys come in and people start cutting lights. And we heard John Force allude to it one time, that he realized that he had to go back and start practicing more on cutting these lights because, Hagen and everybody else that was coming in and Justin Ashley, he was, he was hot for a while there, and everybody else had to step their game up.
Well, if you're John, you just throw her in deep. And then that helps.
There you go.
Yeah,
it sure helps, man. But you're right. I mean, there used to be like several digits between nitro funny car top fuel reaction times and what we'd see in pro stock, and that gap is continuing to close and continuing to close. I mean, we've also seen it in pro modified. I mean, this was not exactly a class that was notorious for killer reaction times. I mean, we saw the cars are violent, a lot going on inside these things, and extremely unpredictable, and you didn't really see those bracket racing-esque reaction times, but now that's most assuredly the case. I mean, you go through, I think the average reaction time in eliminations during the 2024 running of the World Series of Pro Mod was an 0.21.
Yeah.
The average was an 0.21?
Yeah.
Man, that's insane.
It's bonkers out here, man. I was actually just running the numbers on the average reaction time from Funny Car or Top Fuel, because Justin Ashley, like this guy, huge congratulations to Justin Ashley, another one of these young guns that are really, a force to be reckoned with. I mean, Justin, at different times, you never knew exactly if we were going to see him in this sport for a long time, if it was going to be, relatively short-lived. He had some success with marketing partners. And here he is as part of the Skag factory team with perhaps the greatest opportunity of his drag racing career. And my goodness, the young man's making the most of it. I mean, what do you think? I mean, he's been so close, and it just seems to always kind of be snatched away from him late in the season. We get to Vegas and he's in the thick, leading the points are right up there. And then just one domino falls and the next and the next and the next. And he finds himself, on the outside looking in when it comes to that world championship. But I don't know how are there odds against champions at this point yet, JT? Because I don't know how you couldn't, throw his hat in the ring. I think that he's got to be amongst the odds-on favorites right now.
Yeah, what it is. But go ahead and talk, and I'll find it.
I had the standings pulled up earlier. Let me pull them back up. But did you know? I mean, we're obviously we got one race left. I mean, Indy's the final race before the countdown, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Brittany Force is hanging on for dear life at number 10. Have you guys looked at this? And have you looked at the pro stock points? Dallas Glenn, the lead he has at this point in the season at number 1, we got Greg number 2 and Erica number 3. I think we'd have to go back quite a while to see the last time Erica entered the countdown. Anything probably outside of 1, maybe even 2, but at 3. So a little bit, and she's admitted to it, talked about it a lot. And every time I hear Erica say, "Oh, I'm having a terrible season," you kind of laugh it off almost, because it's like you're really not. But that is definitely uncharacteristic. And we're seeing, I think, a bit more fight out of the KB cars. They've been really running well lately, and I think Pro Stock is going to be really interesting going into the countdown. Quadras have been running well. Like, the whole level of competition over there on both the Elite and KB side. And then you got McGahey. All of a sudden, Chris McGahey's running very well. Mason McGahey goes to the finals.
What a moment,
due in
man.
large part to his driving ability, like we were just talking about. So look at Pro Stock and look at the countdown and look at the standings, and that deal is going to be ferocious.
I tell you what, man, it's well, first off, you got to give some kudos to I think Brett Underwood and I were talking this morning about the Pro Stock this past weekend, and he mentioned that 6 of the 8 Elite Motorsports cars were in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you just think about the amount of manpower and the amount of machinery and equipment it takes to pull that off. It's incredible. And to have that kind of success across that many cars is really unheard of, right? Very rarely do you see a team that has so many competitive cars, so many cars that are in the mix. Because if you look in that Elite camp, I don't know that there's a single one of them that you could completely rule out of winning the NHRA US Nationals. But yes, you're absolutely right.
The futures before last weekend finished was Justin Ashley plus 533 on futures. So that's 15.79 percentage. Doug Coletta, of course, first with the probability of 19.49 at plus 413. So they're real close. The top 5 there are real close, which is Coletta, Torrance, Ashley, AB, and Langdon.
It's going to be interesting.
They're all within 100.
What are the championship forecasts? Why don't you give us the forecast for Pro Stock real quick? Because I'm curious, because there are, if you look at the standings, you got Dallas Glenn obviously leading the points, got a 184 point edge on Greg Anderson, his teammate. It really feels like KB Titan, running well. I believe it would appear have found some power, saw some big mile per hour out of that team recently. But then you've got that entire Elite Motorsports contingent nipping at their heels. Erica Enders, Aaron Stanfield, Jed Coughlin Jr., Troy Coughlin Jr., Jerry Don Tucker, Christian Quadra. It's 7, I believe, maybe 6 of the top 10 are Elite Motorsports cars. Hard to count against them when we get to the countdown, right?
So you have Greg Anderson is still in first on futures, or the favorite, a little over 25%. Probability with plus 286 is the line on that right now. Erica is number 2, 22, a little over 22% probability at 345. So they're real close. And then Dallas Glenn is actually just 4 points more. So, or dollars. So plus 4 or 349. And they're both at just over 22% probability. And then Aaron Stanfield, right after that, a little bit of a drop off there. And then Jag, Troy, Jerry Don Tucker, and then Kramer, Hartford. So, but it's funny. They still have Greg and Erica at the top on that.
Yeah, man.
That was before this weekend, or that was before the new odds will reflect then what happened at Brainerd.
Okay. Well, man, it's exciting. It's great to see. I was just looking at the NHRA, and for all the hell they've taken over the years over car count and various things. They've had 31 top fuel cars compete this year. That's, I'm almost certain, up from the last few years. I have to pull up some spreadsheets that I don't have in front of me. 30 different funny cars have competed and earned points in 2024. 32 Pro Stock teams have competed and earned points in 24, and 24 Pro Stock motorcycles. So, if you look at the available inventory, if you could, get all those cars or, 80% of them at every race, you'd be in really, really good shape. It speaks to trying to find more ways to provide value to these race teams and make it more opportunistic for them, because there clearly is an inventory out there of these teams. You just got to get them all to the track at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got 1.5 points at Indy.
Yeah.
What are you looking for at Indy? We'll do a real quick prediction. Like,
we'll be in Indy.
Yeah, we will be.
Thursday night we'll be at Cruise's deal, which is a really cool deal. If you're in town, come out. That's Thursday night, right? Yeah.
Yep, Thursday night at Cruz Pedregon Racing, right there on in Nitro Alley outside of Brownsburg, Indiana. Annual hot rod show and shine, music, food vendors, all sorts of people. Everybody under the sun will be there signing autographs.
Drivers,
that deal's fun.
Wes, you signing autographs again this year?
Yep, I'm signing autographs
and
again.
Then,
and it sounds like
they even get MMA fighters in there.
Aren't you guys gonna do an episode of the show?
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode of Who You Got on there. And so if you want to stop by and make some picks, we might drag you on. I might drag Mike on.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'll be tailgating in the parking lot.
And I think Kayla from Reaction Time is gonna be there as well. So
yep.
Oh, man,
we always have a
big
big time, man.
Indy's fantastic. It's it was good. That was one of the things I was going to ask.
No tower, though. Just a shipping container.
What do you make of that?
I don't know.
I may find that outlaw beer cooler and set by it.
I don't know, man. They've got to have a plan in place, right? I mean, I'm sure I haven't heard any details about it, but obviously it's still in whatever construction phase it's in now, and then get the tower up in time. But I'm sure when it's done, it'll be awesome. But definitely going to be a unique U.S. Nationals visually.
I think we have some bots in our chat. I mean,
I don't know what the hell is going on in the chat.
Like I can't pronounce his name. The guy.
Sometimes they seem like they're getting on the right track, but then they're
I don't know. And then I'm not sure.
I struggle with it. I can't really figure out what
the
hell.
I'd feel bad to ban them from the live streams or page if they enjoy this stuff and we just don't understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah, I know it's tough, guys. Let's wrap the show with a quick Q&A. We'll do the picks from Indy. But we got a great question here from Drag Racing Mayhem.
PDRA Bristol.
Yeah,
which also tonight, and I don't think we talk about this enough. PDRA live. Any Wednesday prior to a PDRA event, was it 7 p.m. Eastern?
7 p.m.
here on Drag Illustrated. Nate, Scotty,
Nate Dogg,
Tyler, who else? Anybody else they can drag on there?
Kyle Christ. It's almost always Scotty
Kyle.
Gore, Kyle Christ, and Tyler Crossnow that join host Nate Van Wagenen on PDRA Live. Great program. Love getting on there. I give him a hard time in the comments. I make my picks. It's a really pick oriented show.
I still never figured out why Nate has two first names. It's a good question.
Yeah, Nate Van. Yeah, Nate Van Wagenen. You're funny, man. How about Nate?
Really?
I don't know. Is it public? Is it public that they had the baby?
Oh yeah, it is public.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Congratulations to our own Nate and Allison. One of the first Drag Illustrated babies, I think. Other than mine.
They've been practicing for a while.
I think practice started at DI After Hours a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I guess as a Drag Illustrated baby.
It's like, I guess Caroline and Christian count as Drag Illustrated babies, really. And Sophia, but I look at Nate. I look at so much of our team as like my children. You know what I mean? Like I look at them as my kids. And so it's just a little bit. I don't know.
I thought you were going to say it's because this relationship was formed through Drag Illustrated
at the DI After Hours party,
and possibly, and consummated at a Drag Illustrated event.
Yeah. I mean, if the timelines check out,
man, you guys are going to get in trouble.
Yeah, we're probably going to get in trouble.
That's why I was I didn't know what the stipulations were here. So
yeah, well, I just want to congratulate them. But listen, real quick, Q&A. If you got questions, if there's something you want to talk about, we'll touch on PDRA Bristol. Hopefully somebody will ask us a question about it, and then we can kind of riff off of that. But we get such fantastic commentary from Drag Racing Mayhem. Do you guys think Indy lost its appeal with the new everyone gets in countdown format? We can go around the room, guys. You two have actually now have a history at Indy. I think I've been to that event almost every year for 20 years. For me, Indy's always going to be Indy. I think that it is, no matter what happens or whatever kind of condition the track is in, racers feel different when they're there, and you can tell it, and it means a lot to people. Is it a long week? Absolutely. Is it a challenge in a multitude of ways? Absolutely. But you can sense it when you're there. And most every drag racer worth his salt would identify winning the U.S. Nationals as, if not the ultimate accomplishment, damn near it. And I think a lot of racers would identify it as the accomplishment. I think there are plenty of drag racers that would rather say they won Indy than won a world championship.
Oh yeah, you heard so much talk about that. I think Blake even mentioned it earlier on his interview. looking ahead to Indy. And I feel like Brainerd kind of gets lost, or it's like this event, like, oh, this is the last one. Let's get past this so we can get to Indy. And it's, you know, looking past that, and it's such a big event that you know, all the ones leading up to it with this new format, it's a little bit different, but Brainerd.
You got a trapper keeper with your race car receipts in it, Wes?
Dude,
he's old school.
Do you not watch the Wes Buck Show? Have you not seen my interview with Billy Stocklin? Have you not seen the interview where he labored over how many notes he takes and the detail to which he logs his runs? So I adopted that. As soon as I got my race car, the next order of business was to go get a trapper keeper, right? And I got a super dope one. It's like a Galaxy print. And I keep track of everything. I keep track of everything. I have learned quickly that we are not going to keep receipts unless absolutely necessary. That shit needs thrown away, like as quick as possible.
Man, it's a lot of talk. When is the first race? When are you getting in this thing?
I don't know. It's been a conundrum.
26.
No, it's been a conundrum.
Roll that thing out.
Buy truck, buy trailer,
Texas.
buy
Let's
race
go.
car. Well, it's 105 right now.
Well, it'll be cooling off soon.
Not super. Oh, my wife is actually making a special delivery to me right now.
You got to get in this thing
with my trapper keeper. This is my drag racing trapper keeper, right?
What color is that? What the hell?
Galaxy, bro. I told you it was Galaxy print. See, it's sick.
Oh man!
But like, check out what I do have.
You beat up the track to pull that thing out.
No,
Like,
it's
Wes
great.
is like this guy that starts a new hobby, and then now we all get to hear all the little details about his hobby.
Shut up! You piss me off. Look at this though. Look at this that I have. Jim Staples. Shout out to Jim Staples that I bought my car off of. He actually has the original ad from like Auto Trader that he bought the car. Isn't that cool? He bought this thing, 1981 Chevy Corvette, parting out car, no engine, transer title, make good street strip car.
Now we're scrapbooking.
We're scrapbooking, man. I love this type of stuff. Like, whenever he told me that he had this, you're like, I don't know if you want this. And I was like, hell yeah, I want it. I want every single piece of paper that you have that's associated with the car. But I did make a fatal mistake over the weekend, or 2 weeks ago now. I went to Summit to pick up a set of wheels for my Corvette. And I really, I got this badass set of Sander.
Good spot. Shout out Summit. And that's like the headquarters. Is that the headquarters or like one of two headquarters?
I don't think it's the headquarters. I think it's still headquartered out of Ohio, but it is like their primary distribution center.
They used to have a big one in Atlanta, right?
They're still there. But the one in Dallas, you could fit several of the ones in Atlanta inside of. I mean, it's a monstrous
I always
building.
thought the one in Atlanta was like the biggest.
They have Nike Monarchs there.
They do have Nike Monarchs there, and I've already got them.
Yeah,
no,
in the Corvette section.
Yeah, in the Corvette section. They do have a whole rack full of Corvette shirts. You know, that's a thing. That's what I'm going to wear on the racetrack. But let me finish. I got a badass set of Sander Engineering 1510 bead locks for the back of my car because it's just I don't know that I need bead locks, but man, I need bead locks because they just look way better. And I want it to look like a modern day, like latest greatest race car. I mean, it's best that I've got, but it's like I wanted bead locks on the back of it, and I needed a set of front wheels that would match my bead locks as close as I could get them. So I got a set of Weld front runners for it, V-Series front runners to match those bitchin' Sander Engineering bead locks. And anyways, I brought Sophia with me, my beautiful 10-year-old daughter. She's like, I want to go to the race car store with you. So she rides over there with me, and she goes up to the counter for me to pay for these things. And they're like, that'll be $2,793.65 or whatever. And she goes, $2,000. And I said, well, it's actually closer to $3,000, baby. $3,000. And I'm like, yeah, we'll just walk over there and sit down, you know. And she hasn't stopped giving me shit about it for 2 weeks.
That's a lot of Dave and Buster's that could happen for that.
Man, it is a lot of
possibly 2 visits to Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, she hasn't left me alone about it, man. Literally every time we go anywhere, I'm like, oh, damn, that's high. And she's like, oh, your wheels were $2,973, Dad.
Oh,
and I'm like,
she's been hanging out with Alicia. She's been in training. Alicia's like, now listen,
Alicia's
Sophia,
not tight.
If I'm not there, you gotta really rub this in and make your dad feel bad about spending this money.
Oh, it's so funny. Alicia did her level best this morning. We were going on our hot girl walk. We go crank out. We ain't running 4 miles like Blake Alexander.
I know,
I'm
right?
sure-
He just casually threw that out. I was laughing. in
Yeah,
the background.
Blake
You
let
saw
us know that he's running
Couldn't
4
even run
miles
a
while his
mile.
knees are blown out from the funny car explosion. But anyways, Alicia and I will knock out a couple miles pretty easy. We can do 2 miles in like 40 minutes, and it's a nice little walk before it's 400 degrees out. But anyways, this morning she was coaching me up because I told her, I said, like, man, I just don't want our first time going racing to be a complete disaster. Like, because it's probably going
There's
to be.
no avoiding
but
that. You just
there's
have to
no-
get that out of the way.
But I was just like, I'm
Go with your
trying to
boys
get the
a couple
trailer
times
ready.
before you take your girl. That's the key.
For real.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying, I want to like, got to get the trailer ready. I'm still buying tools, buying stuff. I mean, when you're like starting from scratch, I mean, I'm buying everything from air pigs, jack stands, tools, paper towels, fans. I mean, it's like, it's insane the amount of stuff that it takes just to go racing. Right. But anyways, I told Alicia, like, man, I don't want it to be a disaster. Like, I want to be as prepared as we possibly can before we go, all that. I don't want to look like an idiot. And we're talking about it, and she's kind of giving me a pep talk. And she's like, oh, you've done this. You've been around this your whole life. You've done this so much, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. It's all going to go great. And she goes, it starts to nosedive. I can tell, because she kind of took like a long break. And she goes, just don't tear our shit up. Okay. And I'm like, okay, Dad, thanks. Appreciate it. Your Eddie Buck is showing. She literally said, you should probably call somebody and just get another engine coming. And I'm like, oh my God.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
goodness. Engine swaps. Nah. If
I'm trying to
if that
avoid
car
engine
turns
swapping.
into engine swapping and all this other stuff, then you got a serious problem.
Yeah.
That should be that thing should be, fun.
It should be. I mean, 60
less work
runs
than
is kind of what I'm looking
you know.
at. Is like, I'm gonna freshen it up at 60 runs, and it's like a 600-inch, 598 cubic inch big block Chevy. So it's not like super exotic or anything. I mean, it's nice. Slick Rick heads on it. I mean, it's got like a custom intake manifold on it, and I mean, it's
what's crazy, man? In my dad's first Pro Mod, the first Mooney built car, Pro Stock chassis, guess what size engine it had in it?
565.
No, man, that came later.
498.
515.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, you get laughed out of the Pro Mod pits with a 515. I mean, you get laughed out of the Pro Mod pits with
that
an
was high.
850.
I mean, but they were progressing rapidly. Then came the 598, then the 615, I believe.
Wife got the
632.
credit card bill for the race stuff. Now I'm on her vacation, sitting on the balcony of her choice. That's perfect.
That might be a life hack. Everybody out there, screen grab that. Yep. And just remember that's kind of the way it works. But no, dude, I'm genuinely excited. Like, huge shout out to Tommy Cunningham at Stroud Safety. He actually sent me his fire suit. He's like, hey, dude, whenever we get time, we'll get you up to Oklahoma City. We'll get you fitted. We'll do some measurements, and we'll build you a custom suit. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you mine from last year. So he sent me his 20-layer suit, sent me a set of boots, taking great care of me, of course, no surprise. I mean, we're really close. I think that we could, if it wasn't going to be so hot this weekend, I would try to go to, or if it wasn't so hot and I had the trailer all the way ready, I'd try to go tomorrow. They have test sessions at XRP like every Thursday. So I'm going to try to go out and make some test passes in the next couple of weeks if everything goes to plan. You know what derailed me this week? Wheel stud spacers. I got these new Sander Engineering beadlock wheels, and they're much thinner. Like the center of the wheels is much thinner. And there's the shoulder of the wheel stud is protruding quite far. So I had a 1/2-inch spacer. Wasn't enough, and I didn't have enough spacers. And Brandon, I'm using Brandon Pez's shop, PJS Racing. Shout out to Brandon and Cole Pez. How about Cole Pez? A minute-long burn down with Kai Kelly. He took the L. He ended up losing, but they knew he was there. I'm proud of my guy. I'm really proud of Cole, man. I mean, I think that they're gonna be serious contenders in that world. But anyways, I was like, no one's at the shop. I don't want to run their lathe without anybody being there, and I'll end up ripping my arm off or something. So anyways, got some new wheel spacers today, and hopefully as soon as we get done with the show, I'm going to go slam these wheels on the back of the old girl and get her down on the ground. Yeah, I will, man. I'm excited though. Are you guys going to come down when I go? You going to make a special trip?
The first time?
Yeah. It's only 10-hour drive
there,
for you two.
Yeah, I think we're going to come down there for the NHRA race. So There's always
I
an
wonder if
event
they're going
at
to Monday
XRP
night,
right around that time.
Monday
night. I'm wondering if Scott Palmer. We should text Scott Palmer and ask if he's doing his Nitro sideshow, because remember last year and the year before he had like a small tire race that I could probably run in. If you guys aren't familiar, like
and then
for those of you that
a Monday night football party, I believe.
Yeah,
Right?
didn't XRP have something like the previous weekend as well? Like they're always doing something. I think that ties in. With
I got to tell you, man, Clyde, everybody at XRP, that they got that joint jumping 24/7, man. I mean, there is something going on, and there's a class of drag racing that's really
when the sun goes down.
Yes, it's a late night spot.
Yeah.
But they have this class that I really kind of point to Tom Gunner, Jimmy Dale, for kind of bringing light to it. I know it's been around for a minute, but this little gangsta small tire 28-10-5 no prep deal, this random index like 490 to 510. So the cars are fast, like fast enough, like it's real good race and fun to watch. But they'll have 30, 35 cars. They raced to the little gangsters this last Saturday night at XRP, $200 buy-in and 11,000 to win.
Did you say you'd be calmer if I was there the first time you were taking the car out?
Did I say that?
I don't know.
I don't know that I meant for it to be like regurgitated on the World Wide Web.
What is?
But
what's that about? What's calming about JT?
Good question.
You know what, JT does kind of make me calm, except for when he talks
he's just hanging
about
out,
my driving and then
drinking
my blood
Coors
boils.
Light.
But
I'm pretty chill.
We've been in some pretty precarious situations together, and he keeps a pretty level head. I mean, he's like in those. I'll tell you what, he's actually talking
I get it.
off
I don't
the ledge
disagree.
a lot.
I don't disagree.
Over the years, he's been. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that he is the voice of reason, but he's really encouraging when you're down. When shit's not going really well, you call JT, you're going to feel better. He's going to make sure you feel better.
That's true.
And if you don't feel better mentally, you will like physically, because he's going to shove like a bottle of vodka down your throat and he's going to make sure you feel better.
It's a two-step process.
Yeah.
Physical and mental.
He finds a way, man. But hey, last thing, got a shipment today from Mark Beatty, Redline Oil. Got some brand new Redline Oil sitting in the garage that I'm getting ready to take and pour into my race car. Again, support the companies that support you, support the companies that support the sport of drag racing. I can't say enough about the group of people that support and sponsor this show. Can't thank them enough. Tommy, Anita Cunningham, Stroud Safety, of course, Redline Oil, our friends at Flow Racing, our own team at Racers Club. Check out Racers Club, racers.club. We got a brand new drop up there to check out. But yeah, man, it's exciting times. It's hard to believe that Indy's 10 days away or whatever it is. I mean, it's crazy how fast time flies. I guess we're getting old, boys.
It is.
We are. Every second.
It really is crazy, man.
It'll be fun, man. Indy will be fun. PDRA Bristol this weekend. Interested, check that out. Their first time. I did not realize that was their first time in Bristol. So everybody's excited about that. Really cool to see like those guys showing up there. Like, wow, look at this place. Check it out. So that's always a cool deal. And like you said earlier, PDRA will look good at Bristol.
I think PDRA is going to look really good at Bristol. And I kind of sense something on social. Like there's a little buzz about this race. Yeah. I can feel it. Like I see a lot of drivers posting videos, a lot of teams putting photos up on social. Steve King talking trash, Steve driving for Gene Pilot, and Jason Harris has an activation going on in his pits with Southern Diamond Supply. I mean, Spencer Hyde posted up his warm-up video, headed to Bristol, and I can sense some energy around this race, and it may be a little lightning in a bottle moment for the PDRA. I mean, they've had some great races, especially in recent history. I mean, I think that the event at US 131 as part of the Northern Nationals was absolutely fantastic. But this is an opportunity for them to kind of lead the charge and be the sole attraction. And I'm anxious to see how the local fans. That's door slammer country there, buddy. They got a grandstand named after Ricky Smith, right? So
and Gene Fulton.
And do they have a Gene Fulton grandstand there too?
Oh, it's like the Legends. I forget what they call it. Hall of Legends or something. And
speaking
Gene's
of legends,
up there.
Did you see Gene Fulton hopped in his plane? Mike Hill in Atlanta needed some parts real bad. Mike the Hitman Hill to go racing. Gene Fulton hops in his plane, flies to Atlanta with the parts, tells Mike to meet him at some grass airstrip, and says, "Hey, I'll circle around a couple times to let you know it's me." And so Mike went and pulled out into the grass field and waited, and then he landed handed over the parts, turned around, took off, and flew back to South Carolina.
Yeah, sounds like Gene, man.
Awesome.
He hasn't changed a bit since day one.
What an icon, man. What an icon, dude. We need to get Gene Fulton on this show sometime. You'll probably have to go to his shop and like make him do it, Mike. But if he'd do it for anybody, he'd do it for Charles Carpenter's son.
Oh, yeah. I'll do it, man.
Yeah.
I used to be there 2 times a week, I think.
How quick can you get to the door of a Fulton competition?
Man, it's a little further from up here in Mooresville, but I used to could do it in just over an hour from Charlotte.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, dude,
that little GMC Sonoma was burning
getting
up.
some miles on it.
Yep.
You didn't drive your Camaro over there? You know,
No,
for those
man,
that don't know,
no,
Mike used to be
I
a
had-
4th gen F body guy.
Yeah. No, I had cylinder heads, sometimes the entire motor in the back.
Yeah, it won't fit under that gigantic glass back window.
Yeah.
Hey guys, appreciate you, and most importantly, all of you in the comments, everybody that tunes into this show, listens online, streams it via various podcast services, or watches along with us on YouTube. Thanks for being a part of this. Remember to click like, click share, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our content. We got it seems like a dozen shows going right now. Reaction Time every Monday. We got Who You Got on Tuesday evenings. We got what's the Wednesday night show this week? PDRA Live with Nate Van Wagenen. Check this out, man. We need more people sharing the gospel of drag racing. We need more people talking about these heroes running up and down these racetracks, and we're sure happy to do it, but it's a lot more fun when you're with us. Guys, thanks for the time, and I guess we'll see you next Wednesday right here on the Drag Illustrator YouTube channel, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. See you there.
See you.
There you go.